Hey guys, tonight we are going to walk until our feet are numb, and then we are going to stand very still and look at a hill for a very long time. We're heading back to 52 BC, to the damp grey countryside of Gaul, where the air smells like wet wool and impending construction work. You are going to be an honorary legionary in Julius Caesar's army, but don't worry, I won't make you carry the heavy pack. Well, actually I might make you carry a shovel, but that comes later. For now, just focus on the rhythmic thud of hobnailed boots on dirt and the low grey sky pressing down on your helmet. It's the Siege of Alesia, perhaps the greatest example of military stubbornness in human history. But let's be real, you probably won't survive this. Statistically speaking, between the dysentery, the starvation, and the angry Gauls throwing rocks, your odds are terrible. But that's a problem for tomorrow you. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Also, drop a comment letting me know where in the world you are and what time it is. I love seeing those timestamps roll in from every time zone. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You have been walking for days or maybe weeks. Time sort of dissolves when you're marching in a Roman column. The ground beneath you isn't the paved Appian way with its nice flat stones. It's the rugged, uneven earth of central Gaul. It's late summer, creeping toward autumn, and the ground has that specific consistency that isn't quite mud yet, but it's definitely thinking about it. Every step you take sends a dull vibration up your shin, through your knee, and settles into your lower back. You look down at your feet. You're wearing caligae, those iconic Roman military sandals. They have thick leather soles, studded with iron hobnails. Clack, thud, clack, thud. That sound is the heartbeat of the empire. It's hypnotic, isn't it? There are tens of thousands of men around you, and the collective noise of their movement is like a low-frequency rumble that you feel in your chest more than you hear with your ears. It's a sound that says, "We are coming, and we are very organised, and we are going to ruin your day." Your shoulders are screaming at you. You're carrying a sarcina, the marching pack. It's got your rations, probably hard grain and some bacon that's seen better days, your cooking pot, a saw, a basket, and a few stakes for the camp wall. They call you and your friends Marius's mules because of how much gear you haul. It's a term of endearment, supposedly, but it feels a lot more like a description of your aching spine. You shift the weight of the pole, resting on your shoulder, trying to find a patch of skin that isn't already bruised, but it's a futile exercise. The bruise is the skin now. The air is cool, humid, and still. There's no wind to dry the sweat on your forehead, under the rim of your helmet. You can smell the guy in front of you, a mix of unwashed tunic, garlic, and old leather oil. It's the smell of the legion. You take a deep breath of it, not because you want to, but because it's the only air available. Ahead of you, the column starts to slow down. The accordion effect ripples back through the lines. You don't stop abruptly, you just shuffle, step, pause, shuffle again. The officers are shouting orders, but their voices sound distant, muffled by the sheer mass of bodies and baggage animals. You aren't worried about an ambush right now. The cavalry is out on the wings, doing whatever it is cavalry does, probably looking superior and trying not to get their horses dirty. You finally come to a halt. The order comes down the line to ground your shields. You unhook the heavy scutum, that big curved rectangular shield, from its leather cover and set it down. You lean on it. It's the most comfortable chair you've had in days. You wipe the sweat from your eyes and look up to see where exactly the Republic has sent you this time. And there it is, rising out of the valley floor like a massive geological ship, stranded in a sea of green and brown, is the plateau of Alesia. It's an oppidum, a fortified town, sitting on top of a steep hill that the locals call Mount Auxois. It looks annoying. That's the first thing you think. It looks incredibly annoying. The sides are steep, rising up sharply from the valley floor. It's shaped a bit like a lozenge or a giant almond, about 1.5 miles long. On top of that plateau, you can see the faint, jagged line of walls and the smoke of thousands of campfires. That's Vercingetorix up there. The king of the Arverni, the guy who united the tribes, burned his own countryside to starve you out, and generally made himself a massive headache for Caesar. He's up there with something like 80,000 men. That's a lot of angry Gauls crammed into a space meant for a small town. It's like a very aggressive music festival, where the only band playing is death and starvation. You squint, trying to gauge the distance. It's close enough that you can see movement on the ramparts, but far enough that you can't make out individual faces. They are probably looking down at you, counting the eagles on your standards, wondering if you brought enough wine to share. Spoiler alert, you didn't. You turn your head to scan the rest of the landscape. This isn't just a hill in a field. The geography here is complex. The plateau of Alesia is flanked on two sides by small rivers. To the north, there's the river Osse. To the south, the river Ozerain. They flow along the base of the hill, acting like a natural moat, before meeting up to the west in the larger Brenny River. It's a defensive dream for the guys up on the hill. For you, standing in the valley, it means wet feet. Beyond the rivers, the plateau is surrounded by other hills, great, hulking masses of terrain that mirror the height of Alesia itself. It's like a natural amphitheatre, and you're standing on the stage, waiting for the play to start. But this isn't a quick skirmish. You've been in those before, shouting, crashing shields, 20 minutes of adrenaline, and then looting the bodies. This feels different. The silence hanging over the valley is heavy. It's the silence of a long, slow squeeze. Historians today still argue about the exact number of legions Caesar brought here. Was it 10? 11? Did he have 40,000 men or 60,000? You look around at the sea of red tunics and bronze helmets stretching back as far as you can see. It feels like enough. Or maybe, looking up at that massive hill, it feels like not nearly enough. It's a matter of perspective, really. If you're a historian in a tweed jacket, it's a fascinating debate about logistics. If you're standing here in the mud holding a pilum, you just hope there are enough guys to cover your blind side. You watch as a group of officers rides by. In the centre is the man himself, Julius Caesar. He's recognisable not because he's glowing or 10 feet tall, but because he looks terrifyingly calm. He's pointing at the hill, then pointing at the rivers, making chopping motions with his hand. He's dissecting the landscape. He's not looking at Alesia like a fortress to be stormed. He's looking at it like a geometry problem to be solved. And you know, with a sinking feeling in your gut, that the solution is going to involve a lot of digging. The sun begins to dip lower, casting long, dramatic shadows across the valley. The plateau of Alesia turns into a dark silhouette against the fading light. The fires up there grow brighter, twinkling like malevolent stars. You wonder what they're eating up there. Probably better than your grain ration. Though, fun fact, the Roman soldiers' diet of grain, lard and sour wine, posca, was actually incredibly scientifically advanced for the time. It provided high energy for sustained labour. But right now you'd kill for a roast chicken. You shift your weight again. The ground is getting colder. A mist is starting to rise from the river Ouse, curling around the base of the hill like a white snake. It's picturesque in a damp, miserable sort of way. This is the Mandubii territory, a tribe that was supposed to be neutral, or at least not openly hostile. But now their capital is the last stand of the Gallic revolt. You can hear the sounds of the army settling in for the night, even though no order has been given to build the full camp yet. Men are loosening their belts. Someone nearby is coughing, a wet, rattling cough that suggests he's been sleeping in puddles for a month. A mule brays loudly, breaking the tension, and a few men chuckle. It's a nervous sound. Humour is the only armour you have that doesn't weigh 20 pounds. The reality of the situation starts to sink in as you stare at the geography. You can't just charge up that hill. The slope is too steep. If you tried to run up there in full armour, you'd be exhausted before you even reached the walls, and the Gauls would just roll rocks down on you like a game of ancient bowling. And you can't just leave, because Vercingetorix is the big prize. If he escapes, the war goes on forever. If you catch him, you might actually get to go home and see a paved road again. So, you are stuck. An immovable object meets a very patient force. You watch a hawk circling overhead, riding the thermals. It has a great view of the whole standoff. It can see the massive blob of the Gallic army on the plateau, and the thin, serpentine line of the Roman army winding into the valley. To the hawk, you are just ants preparing for a very slow war. A centurion walks down the line. He's a craggy-faced veteran who looks like he was carved out of driftwood. He's not yelling, which is worse than if he were. He's just checking gear, looking at the spacing of the men. He stops in front of you, taps your breastplate with his vine staff, the symbol of his rank. He doesn't say anything. He just nods as if to say, "Yes, you are currently present, good job." Then he moves on. It's the little affirmations that keep you going. The order finally ripples down. Halt, prepare to encamp. But this isn't the normal dig a ditch for the night routine. You can feel it. Usually you dig a temporary camp, sleep and move on. But looking at the way the surveyors are moving, the way they're driving stakes into the ground with distinct permanence, you realise this is going to be your home for a while. You aren't building a campsite, you're building a city of war. You drop your pack to the ground with a heavy thud. You roll your shoulders, hearing the joints pop. The relief is instantaneous but fleeting, because now the work begins. But for this specific moment, between the marching and the digging, there is a pause, a breath. You look back up at Alesia. The Gauls are still there. They haven't gone anywhere. You imagine Vercingetorix standing on the highest rampart, his long hair blowing in the wind, looking down at you. Does he know? Does he know that the man leading you doesn't know how to quit? Does he know that you are about to reshape the very earth to trap him? Probably not. He probably thinks his walls are high enough. He probably thinks the rivers are wide enough. He probably thinks the relief army, the massive force of all of Gaul, will come and save him before the food runs out. And honestly, he has a point. It's a solid plan, but he hasn't accounted for the boredom. The weaponized, industrial-grade boredom of the Roman legions. You are about to become a part of the greatest engineering project of the ancient world. You aren't just soldiers, you are construction workers with swords. The twilight deepens. The rivers Osse and Ozerain turn black, reflecting the first few stars. The air grows chillier. You wrap your cloak, your sargum, tighter around yourself. The wool is scratchy, but it holds the heat. You can smell the wood smoke starting to drift from the Roman lines now, as the first fires are lit. It mixes with the smell of the damp earth. This is the arrival. The board is set. The pieces are in place. The hill is there, waiting. The legions are here, waiting. The whole world seems to be holding its breath, waiting for the first shovel to hit the dirt. You find a relatively flat rock and sit down. You take a sip of water from your flask. It's warm and tastes metallic. You chew on a piece of hardtack, letting your saliva soften it so you don't crack a tooth. You watch the lights on the hill. It's almost peaceful, in a grim way. If you ignore the impending violence, it's just a camping trip with 120,000 of your closest friends and enemies. The noises of the night take over. Crickets, frogs from the riverbanks, the clatter of pots, the murmuring of voices in a dozen different dialects of Latin and Gallic. You are here, at the navel of the war. You close your eyes for a second, just listening. The march is over. The siege hasn't quite begun. You are in the liminal space, the quiet before the grind. You take a moment to appreciate the stillness of your legs. They don't have to move, not yet. Tomorrow, Caesar will start drawing lines in the mud. Tomorrow, the centurions will start shouting about gradients and circumvallation. Tomorrow, you will learn exactly how much earth a man can move before his spirit breaks. But tonight, you are just an observer. You are just a witness to the arrival. The hill of Mandubii looms in the dark, a black void against the stars. It feels heavy, like a physical weight pressing on the valley. It's a tomb waiting to be sealed. And you, my friend, are going to be the bricklayer. The sun comes up, but it doesn't exactly burst over the horizon. In Gaul, the sun sort of leaks into the sky like a spilled drink on a grey tablecloth. It's a reluctant dawn. You wake up because someone kicks the sole of your boot, or maybe because the cold dampness of the earth has finally soaked through your cloak and into your bones. You sit up, your joints popping like dry twigs, and the first thing you see is the hill. It's still there. Alesia. It hasn't moved during the night. It hasn't shrunk. If anything, in the pale, washed-out light of morning, it looks bigger. The fires on the plateau have died down to smouldering ash, and a low fog clings to the slopes, hiding the enemy walls. It's quiet, but not the peaceful quiet of a meadow. It's the heavy, expectant quiet of a construction site before the whistle blows. You reach for your breakfast. It's a bit of hard bread that you have to gnaw on, like a determined squirrel, maybe softened with a splash of that vinegar wine from your flask. You chew slowly, staring out across the valley. You aren't marching today. That's the good news. The bad news is that you see a group of men walking through the tall, wet grass, and they aren't carrying swords. They're carrying sticks, ropes, and weird geometric instruments. These are the mensors, the surveyors, and the libratores, the engineers. In the ecosystem of the Roman legion, these guys are the nerds. They don't usually have the scars or the busted noses that the centurions do. They have clean tunics and an air of mathematical superiority. And walking right in the middle of them, wrapped in a distinctively red cloak that looks violently bright against the drab green fields, is Julius Caesar. You watch them work. It's oddly mesmerizing. They aren't charging at the enemy. They are ignoring the enemy entirely. They are walking a wide imaginary circle around the hill, stopping every few yards to argue about angles. It's the ultimate power move. Vercingetorix is up there, with 80,000 warriors, gripping his sword, ready for a glorious battle. And Caesar is down here doing trigonometry. The primary tool they're using is called a groma. You've seen it before. It looks like a simple wooden cross mounted on a staff, with little lead weights dangling from each of the four arms on strings. It looks like a child's toy or a weird wind chime, but it's the device that builds the grid of the empire. The surveyor plants the staff in the mud, waits for the strings to stop swinging, which takes forever in this breeze, and then peers through the strings to create a perfect straight line or a right angle. You watch the lead surveyor squint one eye. He waves his hand to the left. A soldier holding a long pole moves 2 inches to the left. The surveyor waves his hand back to the right. The soldier moves an inch to the right. This goes on for 5 minutes. It is the most boring high-stakes game of red light, green light you have ever witnessed. But you know that where that pole finally lands is where you are going to be sweating for the next month. They are mapping out the contravallation. That's the fancy military word for the wall we build to keep them inside. Historians still argue whether Caesar had this entire massive plan fully formed in his head the moment he arrived, or if he adapted it day by day as he saw the terrain. Looking at him now, pointing decisively at a dip in the ground near the Osirane River, he certainly looks like a man who knows exactly what he's doing. But then again, confident pointing is 90% of being a general. The line they are tracing is colossal. You can see the little marker flags fluttering in the distance, stretching away from you, curving around the horizon and disappearing behind the flank of the hill. It's going to be a circuit of roughly 11 miles. That's about 16 kilometres for those of you tuning in from the metric future. 16 kilometres of fortifications. And they aren't just marking a simple fence, they are marking a complex system of death. You finish your bread and stand up, brushing the crumbs off your tunic. You wander a little closer to the survey line, just to eavesdrop. You hear the engineers talking about soil density and water tables. They're worried about the rivers flooding. They're discussing how to divert water from the Osse to fill the ditches they haven't even dug yet. It's all very technical. It reminds you of when your dad used to argue with the neighbour about the property line. Except if your dad loses this argument, thousands of people die. There's a weird intimacy to this moment. The Gauls are definitely watching. You can see small figures on the ramparts of Alesia, pointing down at the survey team. They must be confused. Usually, sieges are about battering rams and scaling ladders. They expect you to come to them. Instead, you are measuring the ground under your own feet. It's a psychological siege as much as a physical one. You are telling them, we aren't just visiting, we are moving in. One of the surveyors drives a stake into the ground with a heavy wooden mallet. Whack! It echoes off the valley walls. That stake marks the centre of a future camp. There will be 23 redoubts, small forts along the line, and several larger camps for the legions. The precision is annoying. You kind of wish they'd just say, dig a hole over there-ish. But no, this is the Roman army. If the ditch is supposed to be 12 feet wide, and you dig it 11 feet and 10 inches, a centurion will measure it with a decempeda, a 10-foot folding ruler, and then he will hit you with it. Speaking of the decempeda, that's a fun piece of kit. It's the standard unit of your misery. Every time you see an officer unfold that rod, you know someone is about to get yelled at for sloppy geometry. It's funny to think that the greatest military machine in history is held together by guys obsessively checking if lines are straight. You notice something else as you watch the survey. The line isn't just a circle, it hugs the terrain. It dips into valleys and rides up over the spurs of the surrounding hills. Caesar is using the landscape against Vercingetorix. He's taking the high ground where he can, and where he can't, he's planning massive earthworks to compensate. It's like he's terraforming Gaul to make it look more like Italy. There's a quirky little detail you might not notice unless you're looking for it. The surveyors are meticulous about avoiding unlucky spots. Romans are deeply superstitious. If a bird flies the wrong way, or if they dig up a weird-looking rock, they might shift the whole line 5 feet. You see a surveyor pause, look at a patch of brambles, frown, make a sign to ward off evil, and move the stake slightly. You wonder what he saw. A ghost? A bad omen? Or maybe he just didn't want to walk through the thorns. Probably the thorns. The sun climbs higher, burning off the mist. The scale of the project becomes terrifyingly clear. You look at your hands. They are calloused, sure, but they are about to become unrecognizable. You look at the shovel, the pala, resting against your shield. It's a heavy tool, wood-tipped with iron. It's not ergonomic. It was designed by someone who never had to use it. A shout goes up from the command group. The survey is done for this section. The line is set. The engineers start rolling up their ropes and packing away the groma. They look satisfied. They have imposed order on chaos. Now comes the brute force. You see the centurions moving now, barking orders. Legio 10, Legio 12, form up. The relaxing morning of watching other people do math is over. The legionaries around you are groaning, stretching, cracking their knuckles. You hoist your shield, but not for combat. You grab the pickaxe, the dolabra. It's a wicked-looking tool, half axe, half pick. It's great for breaking hard ground, and in a pinch it's great for breaking skulls. But today, it's strictly for the dirt. You march a few hundred paces to the line of stakes. The grass here is tall and wet. A centurion draws a line in the dirt with the end of his staff, connecting the stakes. Here, he says, we dig here. It seems so arbitrary. Why here? Why not 10 feet that way? But you don't ask, you just look at the line. This is the boundary of your world now. Inside the line is the enemy. Outside the line is, well, also potential enemies. But we'll worry about them later. You strike the ground with your pick. The first blow. Thunk. The earth is soft on top, but tough underneath, full of clay and rocks. It resists you. It's Gallic earth. It doesn't want to be Roman. You swing again, and again. The rhythm starts to build. All along the line, thousands of men are doing the same thing. The sound changes from the quiet of the morning to a steady hacking beat. Thunk, scrape, thunk, scrape. You aren't digging the main trench yet. You're just clearing the sod, marking the edges. It's the outline of the drawing before you colour it in. You glance up at the hill again. You can see the Gauls gathering on the walls now, more of them. They are shouting something. You can't make out the words, but the tone is clear. They are mocking you. Look at the Romans, they're probably saying. They came to fight and now they are gardening. You chuckle dryly, let them laugh. They don't know what this ditch is going to become. They see a scratch in the dirt. You see the beginning of a cage. The engineers are moving further down the line, continuing their work. They are relentless. You almost admire them. It takes a special kind of arrogance to look at a massive, hostile army and say, I'm going to do some geometry right in front of your face. It's the ultimate display of confidence. Caesar is betting everything on this line. If the line breaks, you all die. If the line holds, you win the war. No pressure. You pause to wipe your forehead. It's getting warmer. The smell of fresh-turned earth fills your nose. It's a rich, heavy scent. It smells like a grave, which is grimly appropriate. You wonder if any of the locals are watching from the woods behind you. The Mandubii civilians, maybe. They must be terrified. Their home has become the focal point of the entire world. The debate among the men starts immediately. Why are we building it this close? One guy grumbles, leaning on his shovel. They can shoot arrows at us from the lower slopes. No, says another. It's perfect. If we were further back, the line would be too long to man. I heard, whispers a third, that Caesar wants to divert the river and turn the whole valley into a lake. That's stupid, you say. We'd drown too. He's Caesar, the guy shrugs. Maybe he can swim really well. It's nonsense, of course, but it passes the time. Rumours are the currency of the camp, and right now the rumour is that this is just the beginning. The engineers have plans for towers, turrets, traps, things that haven't even been invented yet, or at least haven't been used on this scale. You are about to build a horror house for Gauls. You look at the stake next to your foot. It's rough wood, hastily cut from a nearby forest. It still has the bark on it. In a few weeks, this spot will be a fortification so complex it will be studied for 2,000 years. But right now, it's just a stick in the mud. The centurion comes back. Less talking, more digging. I want this turf cleared by noon. He doesn't actually care if it's cleared by noon. He just likes saying noon. It gives the day structure. You swing the pick again. You are finding your groove. The soreness from the march is being replaced by the fresh soreness of the labour. Your world has shrunk to the 3 feet of ground in front of you. You don't need to worry about Vercingetorix. You don't need to worry about the politics in Rome. You just need to worry about this one rock that is wedged in the clay. You pry it loose, it comes out with a sucking sound. You toss it aside, 1 rock down, only about 10 million to go. The sun is fully up now. The mist is gone. Alesia stands revealed in all its defiant glory, bathed in golden light. It looks beautiful, honestly. A natural fortress. And you are the ants, slowly dismantling the base of the tree. As you work, you notice Caesar riding back along the line. He's not pointing anymore. He's watching you. He's watching the men work. He knows that the plan is worthless without the sweat. He nods at your centurion. The centurion puffs up his chest. You keep digging, but you dig a little faster. It's pathetic, really, how much you want the approval of the guy in the red cape. But that's leadership, isn't it? Making people dig ditches and feel like heroes for doing it. The perimeter is set, the lines are drawn, the land has been measured, categorized, and claimed. Now, the transformation begins. You take a breath, savoring the cool air before the midday heat hits, and you drive the iron into the earth once more. The sound creates a wall of its own long before the dirt does. If you close your eyes for a second, go ahead just for a moment, you can hear it. It's not the clash of swords or the roar of a charge. It's a rhythmic, dull thudding, multiplied by 10,000. Thump, thump, crack, thump. It's the sound of iron biting into the earth. It's a hypnotic, industrial beat that rolls across the valley floor, echoing off the steep sides of the Mandubii plateau. To the Gauls up on the hill, it must sound like a giant beast chewing on the landscape. To you, it just sounds like Tuesday. You are holding a delabra. If the gladius, the short sword, is the wife of the Roman soldier, the delabra is the mistress he spends all his time with. It's a heavy, brutal tool. On one side, it has a broad axe blade for cutting through roots and timber. On the other, a curved pick for breaking up the hard-packed clay and rock. It's balanced, but balanced in the way a sledgehammer is balanced. It wants to go down. Your job is just to lift it up again. You swing. The pick end strikes the ground. The soil here isn't the soft, loamy garden soil you might buy in a bag at a hardware store. This is ancient, compacted Gallic earth. It's full of limestone chips, tangled roots of old scrub brush, and a clay that sticks to everything it touches. The pick goes in with a satisfying crunch, but pulling it out requires a distinct, wrenching motion of your shoulders. You do it again. Crunch, wrench, lift. You are breaking ground on the inner line, the circumvallation. This is the wall that faces Alesia. This is the wall that says you stay there. The engineering plan calls for a complex system of ditches, but right now you are just defining the edge. You are carving the initial scar into the planet. The man next to you, a guy named Titus from Verona, who complains about the lack of good olive oil in Gaul roughly every 15 minutes, is shoveling what you break up. He's using a pala, a wooden shovel tipped with iron. He scrapes the loose dirt into a wicker basket called a quolus. When the basket is full, he hoists it onto his shoulder, walks 10 paces back, dumps it, and walks back. It is the most sophisticated military machine in history, reduced to 2 guys moving dirt from point A to point B. There is a mainstream historical fact that gets thrown around a lot. The Roman legionary was a construction worker first and a soldier second. You are living proof of that right now. You haven't drawn your sword in weeks, but you have developed a very specific callus on your thumb from the handle of the pickaxe. The genius of the Roman army isn't just that they fight well, it's that they work harder than anyone else is willing to work. The Gauls are warriors. They want glory. They want single combat. They do not want to dig a ditch for 12 hours a day. You pause to wipe the sweat from your eyes. It's stinging. You look down the line. It's an incredible sight. A serpent of red tunics, stretching for miles, all bending and rising in a wave-like motion. It's like watching a synchronized swimming team, if the pool was made of mud and the swimmers were angry Italians. The centurion walks by. He's not yelling right now. He's just pacing, measuring with his eyes. He stops at your section, looks at the depth of the cut you've made. Straight in the edge, he grunts. We aren't building a snake. We are building a line. You nod. You don't argue. You just chop at the sidewall of the trench to make it perfectly vertical. The precision is mandatory. A sloppy ditch leads to a sloppy wall, and a sloppy wall leads to dead Romans. As you dig, you start to uncover the geology of the valley. You hit a layer of chalky white stone. The pick sparks against it. Clink. A smell of flint and ozone drifts up. Then you hit a patch of dark, wet clay that smells like rotting leaves. It's like reading the history of the earth, one strata at a time. There's a quirky little tidbit about these tools you're using. Archaeologists have found dolabre sheaths, leather covers for the blades, that are decorated with surprisingly intricate art. Some soldiers carve their names into the handles, or little symbols of good luck. You look at yours. It's standard issue, stamped with the legion's numeral. But maybe, if you get bored enough, you'll carve a little phallus on it later. Romans love carving phalluses on things. It's considered a charm against the evil eye, believe it or not. So if you see a rude drawing on a wall in Pompeii, just remember, it was for safety. The sun is directly overhead now. The shadows have disappeared, hiding under your boots. The heat is heavy, humid, the air feels thick. You can hear the buzzing of flies drawn to the sweat of thousands of men. It's a low drone that competes with the digging. You switch roles with Titus. He takes the pick, you take the shovel. The change in motion is a relief for about 5 minutes, and then your lower back realizes it's just a different kind of pain. You scoop the heavy clods of dirt. The basket is heavy. It's woven from willow branches, likely cut from the riverbanks nearby. It creaks as you fill it. You hoist it up. The weight settles onto your shoulder. You trudge back to the spoil heap. This pile of dirt isn't just trash, it's the beginning of the rampart. Every basket you dump is raising the floor of the fortification. You are literally moving the hole to build the wall. It's an elegant closed loop of labour. You dump the dirt. Dust billows up, coating your face. You taste the grit. It's crunchy. You are eating gall one speck at a time. From your position on the spoil heap, you have a better view of the enemy. They are definitely watching. A group of horsemen has ridden out from the gates of Alesia. They are staying well out of bowshot, just trotting back and forth. They look confused. They probably expected you to attack the gates. Instead, you are ignoring them. Look at them, Titus says, leaning on his pickaxe for a precious second of rest. Fancy armour, clean cloaks. Bet they haven't dug a hole in their lives. They're saving their energy, you say, tossing the empty basket back down. For what? Titus scoffs. Starving? It's dark humour, but he's right. The siege lines are tightening. The noise of your digging is the ticking of a clock. Every foot of trench you dig is a minute taken off their lifespan. Historians still argue about the exact sequence of the digging here at Alesia. Did Caesar have you dig the entire 11-mile circuit simultaneously? Or did you finish one section completely before moving to the next? The logistical nightmare of coordinating 40,000 diggers suggests it was probably done in sectors. You are responsible for this 100-yard stretch. If it's not done by sunset, you don't eat. That tends to clarify the schedule. The rhythm takes over again. Scoop, lift, walk, dump. You enter a trance state. This is the ASMR part of the war. The repetition silences your brain. You stop thinking about Rome. You stop thinking about the girl you left behind in Transalpine Gaul. You stop thinking about the concept of freedom or imperialism. You just think about the basket. The basket is your universe. Your hands are slippery with sweat. You stop to rub some dirt into them for grip. The earth dries the moisture. You are becoming one with the landscape. You look at your tunic. It was red this morning. Now it's a stiff brown canvas, stained with sweat and clay. You look like a golem made of mud. A water boy runs down the line. He's a young auxiliary, maybe 16. He's carrying a skin of posca. You wave him over. He unstoppers the skin and pours a stream into your mouth. It's sour, sharp vinegar water, but it cuts through the dust in your throat like nothing else. It's basically the Gatorade of the ancient world, electrolytes and hydration. Plus it kills the bacteria in the water. You wipe your mouth with the back of your hand. Thanks, kid. He nods and runs to the next guy. Back to the pick. You encounter a massive root, thick as your arm. It's from an old oak tree that must have stood here decades ago. The wood is hard, seasoned in the ground. You have to hack at it. Chop, chop, crack. The wood splinters. It smells sharp and tannic. You feel a weird sense of guilt, fighting a tree while a war waits in the background. But the tree is in the way of the line. The line must be straight. The tree loses. You pry the root out and toss it on the pile. It will make good firewood tonight. The afternoon wears on. The trench is getting deeper. It's now knee-deep, then thigh-deep. You are standing in the earth. The temperature drops slightly down here in the groove. It's cooler, damper. The walls of the trench block the wind. You are creating your own microclimate. You hear a commotion further down the line. A section of the trench wall has collapsed, sliding back in and burying a soldier's legs. There's shouting, laughter, and cursing. "Should have shored it up, stupid," someone yells. It's a break in the monotony. You watch as they dig him out. He looks sheepish. The centurion is not laughing. He is gesturing violently with his vine staff. The wall is rebuilt in double time. This is the reality of the siege. It's not about bravery, it's about engineering integrity. If the wall falls down, the enemy gets in. Physics is the real enemy right now. You look at the pile of earth you've created. It's getting high. Later, you'll pack it down, face it with sod, and put a palisade on top. But for now, it's just a raw, ugly mound. It looks like a scar on the beautiful green valley. You wonder if the people in Rome have any idea what this looks like. The Senate probably imagines glorious charges and eagle standards waving in the breeze. They don't imagine thousands of men with muddy butts digging a hole in the middle of nowhere. But this is how the Republic expands, one shovel load at a time. The sun begins to dip towards the western hills. The light turns golden, then orange. The shadows stretch out again, reaching across the trench you've dug. The air cools rapidly. The sweat on your back turns cold. "All right," the centurion bellows. "Hold fast, mark the depth." You stop. The silence rushes back in, ringing in your ears. The absence of the thump, thump, thump is startling. You lean on your delabra, your chest heaving. You look at what you've done. You've dug a trench about 3 feet deep and 4 feet wide, stretching as far as you can see. It's not the finished product, not even close, but it's a start. It's a defining line. You have physically changed the geography. Before today, this was a field. Now, it is a Roman position. You climb out of the ditch, your muscles protesting. You stand on the spoil heap and look at Alesia. The fires are lighting up again on the plateau. They are still there. You are still here. But now there is a line between you. You feel a strange sense of satisfaction. It's the satisfaction of a job done, even if the job is terrible. You look at your hands. They are trembling slightly from the exertion. You rub them together, feeling the heat. "Good dirt," Titus says, patting the mound. "Nice and heavy." "Shut up, Titus," you say, but you're smiling. You pick up your gear. The work is done for the day, but the siege never sleeps. Guards are posted. The night shift comes on to watch the darkness. You head back towards the tents, towards the smell of lentil stew and the promise of sleep. Behind you, the trench waits. It's a hungry mouth. Tomorrow, you have to feed it more dirt. Tomorrow, you have to go deeper. But for tonight, the hypnotic rhythm of the delabra fades into the chirp of crickets. You walk away, but you can still feel the vibration of the earth in your feet. The ground remembers the beating it took today, and so do you. The next morning you wake up and your body feels like it has been replaced by a stiff wooden puppet that was left out in the rain. Every muscle fibre has a complaint to file. You roll off your sleeping mat, groan, and reach for your boots. You think you know what today holds. You think it's going to be more of the same. Scrape, lift, dump. A nice, predictable rhythm of trench warfare. But then the centurion gathers your century. He's looking particularly grim today. He's holding a scroll, which is never a good sign. And he's standing near the front of the works, closer to the enemy than you'd like. "Change of plans," he barks, his voice cracking slightly in the morning chill. "The general says the Gauls are getting too close. They're harassing the workers. So before we finish the main wall, we are digging a surprise." He points to the ground about 400 paces in front of the main construction line. "Here, 20 feet wide, 20 feet deep." You blink. You look at the guy next to you. Titus looks back, his mouth slightly open. 20 feet? That's not a ditch, that's a canyon. That's a 2-story building inverted into the earth. Standard Roman military doctrine, which you have memorized because your life depends on it, usually calls for a V-shaped ditch, maybe 9 or 10 feet wide. A V-shape is easy to dig. You just slope the sides. But 20 feet? And, the centurion adds, delivering the punchline with zero humour, vertical sides, straight down, like a wall. This is the famous 20-footer. It is a monstrosity of engineering. It is designed to be a hard stop. A standard V-ditch can be scrambled down and up if you're desperate enough. But a trench with sheer, vertical walls is a trap. If a horse falls in there, it's not coming out. If a man falls in there, he's going to need a ladder or a very sympathetic friend with a rope. You pick up your shovel. The groaning in the ranks is audible, a low murmur of dissent that vanishes the second the centurion turns his head. You march out to the new line. It feels dangerously exposed. You are way out in front of the main legions now, practically waving hello to Vercingetorix. You can see the Gallic cavalry twitching on the horizon. They want to charge. They know you're vulnerable. But that's why you're digging this specific trench. It's a shield made of negative space. You break ground. The first few feet are easy, familiar, but as the day wears on, the reality of vertical sides sets in. You can't just stand on a slope and toss the dirt up. Once you get past 5 feet, you are standing in a box. The walls are right there, pressing in. You have to cut them perfectly straight, like you're carving a cake for a giant. By mid-afternoon, the logistics shift. You can no longer throw the dirt out. You are now part of a bucket brigade. This is the definition of monotony. You are at the bottom of the hole. You scoop dirt into a basket. You lift the basket over your head to a guy standing on a wooden scaffold or a ladder. He takes it, lifts it to the next guy, who dumps it on the surface. Scoop, lift, pass, repeat. You are trapped in a brown, earthen elevator that never goes to the top floor. The sky above you is just a slit of blue, framed by the dark, crumbling edges of the turf. The sounds of the battlefield, the distant shouts, the wind, are muffled. Down here, it's quiet, dead quiet. The only sound is the grunt of the man next to you and the scrape of iron on clay. The air changes as you go deeper. It gets cold, really cold. You are descending into the geology of Gaul. The smell is intense, damp, mineral, ancient. You are breathing air that has been trapped in the soil since the last ice age. It smells like wet pennies and old cellars. Historians still argue about the exact placement and continuity of this 20-foot trench. Some say it stretched the entire length of the siege lines. Others think it was only dug in the most vulnerable flat areas where cavalry charges were most likely. Looking at the sheer volume of earth you are moving, you really, really hope it's not the whole 11 miles. If it is, you're going to need new shoulders. There is a fascinating psychological element to digging a vertical trench. It feels unnatural. The earth wants to slope. Gravity wants to pull the sides in. You have to constantly shore up the walls with timber planks to keep them from collapsing on you. It's terrifying. Every time a basket of dirt is hauled up, a trickle of dust falls back down on your helmet. Pitter-patter. It's a gentle reminder that you are burying yourself alive. At 10 feet deep, you hit a layer of dense grey clay. It's sticky. It sucks at your boots. When you try to lift your foot, your sandal stays in the mud. You have to reach down and pry it loose. Titus makes a joke about finding dinosaur bones, though he calls them dragon bones, or giant's teeth, because paleontology isn't really a thing yet. But you do find things. Weird rounded river stones that shouldn't be this high up. Roots of trees that died centuries ago, turned black and hard as iron. You pause to drink from your flask. The water is warm, but down here in the cool shadow of the trench, it feels refreshing. You look up. The Centurion is a tiny silhouette against the bright sky, peering down at you like a kid looking into a well. "Keep the side straight," he yells. His voice echoes weirdly, bouncing off the clay walls. "If a horse can climb out, you're staying in." That's the main point of this specific trench. Cavalry denial. Horses are smart animals. They have wide-set eyes and excellent depth perception for terrain. A horse will jump a hedge, a horse will scramble up a bank, but a horse will absolutely refuse to jump into a void if it can't see a landing spot. A 20-foot vertical drop is a hard no for a horse. This trench isn't just a physical barrier, it's a psychological weapon against the Gallic ponies. You resume digging. The rhythm is slower now because of the bucket chain. It's agonizingly slow. You fill a basket, you wait, the basket comes back down empty. You fill it again. You are a machine that processes dirt. There is a quirky historical tidbit about Roman entrenching tools. The iron they used was often soft. If you hit a really hard rock, the tip of your pick might bend. You'd have to stop, put the pick on a flat stone, and hammer it back into shape with another rock. It adds a layer of primitive frustration to the advanced engineering. You are building a marvel of military architecture, but you are doing it with tools that feel like they belong in the Stone Age. As the sun moves across the slit of sky, the light at the bottom fades. It's twilight down here, long before it's twilight up there. The shadows lengthen and merge until you're working in a gloom. Torches are lit up on the surface, casting flickering orange light down into the pit. It looks like the entrance to the underworld. You are tired, deeply, spiritually tired. Your back spasms every time you twist to pass a basket, but you can't stop. If you stop, the guy above you has nothing to grab, and the guy above him has nothing to dump, and the Centurion starts yelling. You are a cog. You wonder what the Gauls think of this. They can't see you. They just see a pile of dirt growing on the surface. To them, the Romans have simply vanished into the ground. Maybe they think you're digging a tunnel to their kitchens. Eventually, a whistle blows. Shift change. Climbing out is an ordeal in itself. You have to scale a series of rickety wooden ladders that are slick with mud. You climb up hand over hand, feeling the weight of your own body like it's a sack of lead. As your head clears the rim of the trench, the fresh air hits you. It smells sweet. Grass, smoke, wind. After 8 hours in the damp clay, the surface world feels vivid and sharp. You stand on the edge and look down. It is terrifying. A gaping black wound in the earth. It is perfectly straight, the walls shorn smooth by thousands of spade cuts. It looks impossible. If you didn't know better, you'd say a god had sliced the earth with a giant knife. That, says Titus, wiping mud from his ear, is a very big hole. It's a grave, you mutter, for horses. Or for us, he adds cheerfully, if we fall in the dark. You walk back to the camp lines, stumbling slightly on the uneven ground. The main fortification, the rampart you started yesterday, is still just a low mound behind you. This new trench is the front line. It stands alone, a solitary, massive gasp of emptiness meant to buy time. The genius of Caesar is that he understands labour is a resource just like arrows or corn. He spends your sweat to save your blood. By digging this 20-foot trench, he has created a zone where the enemy simply cannot go. He hasn't built a wall to keep them out. He has removed the floor, so they can't come in. Dinner is a slurry of grain and bacon fat. You eat it without tasting it. You're too busy trying to get the dirt out from under your fingernails. It's impacted there, a permanent souvenir of the day. You realise you will probably never be clean again. The clay of Alesia is now a part of your dermis. As you lay down in your tent, you close your eyes, but you still see the walls of the trench. You feel the cool dampness. You feel the sensation of being enclosed. It's a claustrophobic memory. Outside, the wind picks up. It howls over the open mouth of the trench. If you listen closely, the trench sings. A low, moaning whistle as the air rushes over the 20-foot drop. It's a ghostly sound. The earth is complaining about the surgery. You think about the depth. 20 feet. That's 3 men standing on each other's shoulders. That's deep enough to hide a house. It's deep enough to hide the fear that maybe, just maybe, this siege is a bad idea. But the trench is done for now. Or at least, your section is. Tomorrow, you will move to the next sector. The abyss will extend. The scar will grow. You roll over, trying to find a soft spot on the ground. There isn't one. The ground is hard because you're sleeping on the same earth you spent all day fighting. It's a stubborn enemy. Hey, Titus whispers from his mat. You think Vercingetorix knows how deep it is? He will, you say, when the first horse goes over the edge. Grim, Titus says. Go to sleep, Titus. You drift off, dreaming of ladders and endless buckets. In your dream, you are digging a hole to the other side of the world, just to get away from the centurion. But when you pop out on the other side, Caesar is there, waiting with a groma and a smile. Good, he says. Now fill it back in. The night settles over the camp. The fires burn low, and out in the dark, the great ditch waits. A silent, vertical sentinel guarding the sleeping legions from the thundering hooves of the north. You stand at the edge of the trench you've just spent the last 48 hours digging. It's a magnificent, terrifying hole in the ground. But a hole by itself isn't a wall. A hole is just a suggestion that someone should stop walking. To really tell Vercingetorix, no, you need height. You need a rampart. So the order comes down. Reverse shovels. You turn your back on the enemy and look at the spoil heap, that long, ugly ridge of dirt you created while excavating the ditch. It's loose, messy, and structurally unsound. If you just stood on top of it, you'd slide right back down in a cloud of dust and embarrassment. You need to turn that pile of dirt into a fortress. You put down the shovel and pick up a different tool, the falx or a heavy turf cutter. Today you're not a miner, you are a bricklayer. But you aren't using fired clay or quarried stone. You are using the most abundant resource in Gaul, grass. You march out to a patch of untouched meadow behind the lines. The grass is green, lush and wet with dew. It looks peaceful. You are about to ruin it. You kneel down and start cutting sacebites, turf bricks. This is a precise art. The centurions are obsessed with dimensions. A standard Roman turf brick is supposed to be exactly 1 Roman foot long, half a foot thick, and 1.5 feet wide. It has to be cut perfectly square so it stacks. If you cut a sloppy brick, the wall will bulge and collapse, and then the centurion will use your head to fill the gap. Slice, lift, stack. You cut a rectangle into the sod. You pry it up. It comes away with a heavy sucking sound, the roots tearing like Velcro. You hold it in your hands. It's heavy, maybe 50 or 60 pounds of wet earth and root systems. It smells incredibly fresh, like a soccer field after a rainstorm. It's a smell that screams summer, but your aching back screams labour violation. You carry the brick to the line. You are building the revetment, the retaining wall that holds the loose dirt in place. You stack the turf bricks in a neat, overlapping pattern, just like masonry. Grass side down, dirt side up, or maybe grass side out for the face. The debate rages in the ranks, but the engineer settles it. Grass on grass, dirt on dirt, interlocked for stability. It's basically high-stakes Legos made of mud. As you build the wall higher, you realise the genius of it. Stone walls shatter when hit by catapult stones. They send shrapnel flying. But turf? Turf absorbs the blow. It's spongy. A rock hits it with a dull thud and just embeds itself. It's a self-healing armour. You are building a living wall. The rampart is rising. It's designed to be 12 feet high. That doesn't sound like much until you're standing at the bottom looking up. And remember that 12 feet is measured from the ground level, but you've also got that massive ditch in front of it. So effectively, to an attacker, it looks like a 30-foot cliff face. But dirt and grass aren't enough. You need a skeleton, you need wood. This is where the Marius's mules part really kicks in. You drop the turf and head to the timber pile. You and your squad have been hauling logs from the nearby forests for days, stripping them of branches and bark. Now, you have to drag them up the slope of the rampart. You grab a heavy oak beam. It's rough. You get a splinter immediately. You ignore it. You and 3 other guys hoist the beam. 1, 2, lift. It's dead weight. You stagger up the loose earth of the rampart. your boots slipping. You reach the top. The view is amazing. You can see over the heads of the Gauls in the valley. You can see the smoke of their fires clearly now. You feel tall. You feel powerful. Then the centurion yells at you to stop sightseeing and start lashing. You are building the vallum, the palisade. This is the wooden fence that sits on top of the earthen rampart. It's made of sturdy, sharpened stakes laced together with pliable branches or rope. There's a quirky historical detail here that often gets overlooked. The Roman army carried its own wall with it. Each soldier was expected to carry 2 sudes, heavy oak stakes pointed at both ends, tied to his pack. These weren't just firewood, they were instant fortification. You unstrap the stakes you've been lugging around for 3 weeks. They are polished from rubbing against your armour. They are your friends. Now you hammer them into the top of the rampart. Thwack, thwack. You lace them together. The design is clever. They aren't just a fence. They are a web. If a Gaul tries to pull one stake out to make a hole, he can't, because it's tied to 3 others. The whole wall is one continuous organism. You weave willow branches between the stakes to create a lorica, a breastwork or screen. It's like basket weaving, but for war. The willow is flexible and tough. It hides you from archers, but lets you throw your javelins over the top. The sun beats down on the fresh earth. The humidity rising from the drying turf is intense. You are sweating so much your tunic is soaked through. You look at the guy next to you, Titus again. He's covered in green stains and mud. He looks like a swamp creature. Nice wall, he grunts, testing the stability of a stake. Sturdy, you agree. Think it'll stop a horse? The ditch stops the horse, you remind him. The wall stops the rider. Historians still argue about the exact configuration of the towers along this wall. Caesar says there was a tower every 80 feet. That's a lot of towers. That's basically a high-rise condo development encircling a hill. Were they fully enclosed structures, or just elevated platforms? You look down the line where the carpenters are working. They're framing up something that looks like a scaffold. It's definitely a tower. We'll get to those later, but right now, the focus is the curtain wall. You step back to admire your work. The rampart is taking shape. It's a clean, sharp line of earth and wood cutting through the chaotic landscape. It looks civilized. It looks Roman. It imposes geometry on nature. But there's a problem. The rampart is steep. How do you get up and down it during a fight without breaking your neck? Steps, the engineer shouts. Cut steps into the back. So, you grab the shovel again. You carve a set of stairs into the rear slope of the rampart. You reinforce the edges with wood so they don't crumble. Now you can run up to the fighting platform in seconds. You test it. Up, down, up, down. It's a good workout. Your calves are burning. The day drags on. The wall grows mile by mile. It's like a living snake encircling Alesia. You can see the Gauls watching from their own walls. They must be terrified. They went to sleep looking at a field, and they are going to wake up looking at a prison. You pause for water. You look at the texture of the turf bricks. You can see tiny flowers pressed into the mud. Clover, dandelions, little fossils of the summer that is ending. It's a weird juxtaposition. You are building a machine of death out of wildflowers and dirt. There is a fringe theory that the Romans might have used a specific type of knot or lashing for the palisade that was a military secret, something that tightened when pulled, making it impossible for enemies to dismantle. You look at the knot you just tied. It's a mess. Hopefully, the Gauls don't know about knots either, but the engineer comes by and corrects it. Square knot, not a granny knot, you idiot. He reties it with lightning speed. Okay, maybe there is a secret military knot. As the sun sets, the silhouette of the wall becomes stark against the purple sky. The Sudas stick up like the teeth of a dragon. It looks menacing. It looks impenetrable. You're exhausted. Your hands are raw from handling the rough timber. Your back is a solid block of pain, but you feel safe. For the first time since you arrived in this valley, you have a barrier between you and the 80,000 angry warriors on the hill. You sit down at the base of the rampart in the shadow of your creation. The earth is still warm from the sun. It radiates heat against your back. It's comforting. You lean your head back against the turf. It smells like a garden. Hey, Titus says, chewing on a piece of hardtack. You know what this reminds me of? Don't say home, you murmur. No, it reminds me of that farm my uncle has. He built a wall just like this to keep the wolves out. We are the wolves, Titus, you say. We're the ones trapping them. Are we? He asks, looking at the dark woods behind you. Feels like we're the ones in the pen. He has a point. You are walled in on both sides now, the hill in front and the open country behind. You are living in a thin strip of Roman order in a sea of chaos. The fires are lit along the top of the rampart. Sentries are posted. You can see their silhouettes pacing back and forth, spears resting on their shoulders. The wall is alive. It has eyes now. You check your gear. Your Delabra is caked in mud. You'll have to clean it, but not yet. Right now, you just want to look at the wall. It's your masterpiece. It's 12 feet of stay away. You think about the logistics of this. 11 miles of turf, millions of bricks, thousands of trees. And it was all done by hand, by men like you, fueled by bad wine and fear. It's the ultimate expression of the Roman spirit. We will outwork you. We will outdig you. We will change the geography until you surrender. The wind picks up, whistling through the wicker of the lorica. It makes a mournful sound, like a flute played by a ghost. It's the song of the siege. You close your eyes. You can still feel the weight of the turf in your hands, the sensation of the roots tearing, the roughness of the bark. Your body has memorized the wall. Tomorrow the towers go up. Tomorrow the architecture gets vertical. But tonight the line is drawn. The circle is closed. You drift off to sleep, curled up at the base of the rampart. It blocks the wind. It blocks the view of the enemy. It is a good wall. You built it well. And somewhere in the dark on the other side of the valley, Vercingetorix is looking at the same wall, and he is realizing that the noose has tightened. The earth itself has turned against him. You wake up and the first thing you notice is that the soundscape has changed. The dull, rhythmic thumping of pickaxes against the earth has been replaced by something sharper, higher pitched, and arguably more annoying, the sound of soaring. It's a zzz noise that cuts through the morning mist like a jagged knife. Today, you are done being a mole. Today, you are going to be a carpenter. You crawl out of your tent, stretching your back, which is still protesting the digging from yesterday, and look at the line. The rampart you built is impressive. A long brown snake of turf and timber hugging the contours of the valley. But it's just a wall. A wall is passive. A wall just sits there and waits to be climbed. To really control the space, you need height, you need eyes in the sky. The order comes down from the engineers. Towers, 80 feet, everywhere. You blink. 80 feet, that's not very far. In modern terms, that's about 25 meters. That means if you stand at one tower, you can casually toss an apple to the guy in the next tower. It means the entire 11-mile circuit is going to be studded with these things. Caesar isn't just building a fence, he is building a skyline. You head to the timber piles. This is where the reality of Marius's mules hits you again. You aren't just carrying a sword, you are part of a mobile logging company. The legions have been stripping the local forests bare. Oak, beech, whatever is tall and straight, it all gets dragged here. The air smells thick with pine resin and sawdust. It's a sharp, clean smell that clears your sinuses instantly. Your job today is to frame up a 3-story watchtower using nothing but raw logs, rope, and some iron nails that are so valuable you have to count them back in at the end of the shift. You grab a partner, let's say it's Titus again, because he's useful for lifting heavy things even if he complains the whole time, and you approach the first pile of beams. These are the corner posts. They are massive. They still have the bark on them in places, rough and scaly. You wrap a rope around the end, heave it up onto your shoulder, and start walking toward the rampart. The wood bites into your trapezius muscle. Sap leaks onto your tunic, sticky and sweet-smelling. You are basically a walking air freshener for the Legion. When you get to the designated spot on the wall, marked, of course, by a very precise surveyor's stake, you drop the beam. Thud. The ground shakes. Now comes the engineering. Historians still argue, vigorously, about what these towers actually looked like. Were they fully enclosed blockhouses with roofs and shuttered windows? Or were they just open scaffolding structures, basically glorified deer stands? Caesar calls them turres, which implies a certain solidity, but considering you have to build about 1,000 of them in a hurry, you're probably looking at something rustic. Let's assume they are sturdy, open-framed structures with a thatched roof to keep the rain off the scorpions. And no, not the arachnids. We'll get to those in a minute. You start digging the post holes. Yes, more digging, but these are precision holes. You drop the main beams in, then comes the raising. You use a system of pulleys, trochlea, and ropes. It's a team effort. Heave, hold, heave! The beam rises, wavering in the air like a drunk giant, until it slots into place. You secure it, then the next one. Building a tower is different from building a wall. A wall is forgiving. If it's a little crooked, it's just organic. A tower has to be plumb. If a tower leans, it falls, and if it falls, the centurion makes you rebuild it while everyone else is eating dinner. So you use a perpendicularum, a plumb bob, which is just a lead weight on a string, to check the verticality. It swings in the breeze. You wait for it to settle. It's perfect. You start lashing the crossbeams. You are climbing now, up on the framework you just built. You are 10 feet off the ground, then 15. The wind is stronger up here. You can see over the palisade. You can see the ghouls on the plateau. They are definitely watching this. Yesterday there was a wall. Today, a forest of wooden skeletons is rising out of the mud. It must look like dark magic to them. The joinery is rough. You aren't building fine furniture for a villa in Tuscany. You are using simple lap joints, or just lashing logs together with rawhide thongs. The rawhide is wet when you tie it. As it dries in the sun, it shrinks, clamping the wood together with incredible force. It's nature's zip tie. You scramble up to the second level. This is the fighting platform. You lay down planks for the floor. They wobble a bit. You nail them down. Bang, bang, bang. The sound of thousands of hammers echoes across the valley. It's a cacophony of construction. If you closed your eyes, you'd think Rome was building a new suburb, not a siege line. Here's a quirky little tidbit about Roman military construction. The soldiers often customized their workspace. Archaeologists have found bits of graffiti on military equipment, and it's likely you guys carved things into the fresh wood of the towers too. Maybe a little Legio X was here, or a caricature of the centurion with a big nose. It's hidden under the floorboards, a secret joke for the next guy who has to tear it down. You reach the top level. This is the penthouse. It's about 25 or 30 feet up. The view is commanding. You can see the entire layout of the siege now. You see the inner line, the circumvallation, curving away into the distance. You see the gaps where the rivers cut through. You see the smoke from the main camp. It's like looking at a map, but you are standing inside it. You also realise how exposed you are. A Gaul with a good bow could probably reach you here. So you haul up wicker screens, plateau, to lash to the front railing. They are light, but they stop arrows. You feel a little better. Then comes the furniture. You hear a grunt of exertion from below. A team is hauling up something heavy. It's a Scorpio, a torsion catapult. This is a sniper rifle the size of a lawnmower. It shoots heavy, iron-tipped bolts with terrifying accuracy. Every tower, or at least every few towers, gets one of these bad boys. You help them wrestle it onto the platform. It's heavy, made of oak and iron and twisted sinew ropes. You bolt it to the railing. You traverse it left and right. The mechanism creaks. You aim it at a clump of bushes near the foot of the hill. If a rabbit runs out, that rabbit is history. This is the point of the towers. It's not just about seeing, it's about projecting force. With a tower every 80 feet, you can create a crossfire that covers every inch of the ditch. No one can approach the wall without being seen by 3 different towers and targeted by half a dozen scorpions. It's a geometry of death. As the afternoon wears on, the tower takes its final shape. You add a crude ladder for access. It's steep and treacherous, especially when you're wearing hobnailed boots that slide on the wood. OSHA would shut this whole site down in 5 minutes, but for you, it's just the commute. The smell of the tower changes as the sun heats it up. The green wood sweats, the sap boils out, and then there's the other smell, the hides. To protect against fire arrows, because the Gauls aren't stupid, they know wood burns, you have to cover the exposed parts of the tower with raw, wet hides. You drag these skins up. They're heavy, slimy, and they smell like a butcher shop that has lost power for a week. You nail them to the front beams. Great. Now your beautiful tower smells like a dead cow. But hey, it won't burn. You stand on the top deck, wiping your hands on your tunic. You look down the line. It's staggering. A duplicate of your tower stands 80 feet to the left, another 180 feet to the right, and on, mile after mile. It looks like a fence made of giants. The psychological impact on the enemy must be crushing. Imagine being Vercingetorix. You look down and see that the Romans haven't just surrounded you. They have built a city to watch you die. They have turned the entire valley into a prison yard, and the guards are everywhere. "Hey!" Titus yells from the next tower over. "I can see your bald spot from here." "I'm wearing a helmet, idiot," you yell back. "I can see it through the helmet. That's how powerful this view is." The banter drifts across the gap. It makes the massive scale of the war feel smaller, more manageable. You aren't fighting an army, you're just hanging out with your neighbour on a really high porch. The sun begins to set, casting long, spindly shadows from the towers across the valley floor. The shadows reach all the way to the base of the Alesia plateau, like long dark fingers trying to grab the Gauls. You climb down. The descent is always scarier than the climb. Your boots slip on the rungs. You hit the ground with a thud. Your legs feel heavy after balancing on beams all day. You walk back a few paces to admire the work. The tower looms over you. It looks prehistoric, a rough-hewn idol to the god of engineering. It's ugly, functional, and terrifyingly efficient. The centurion walks by, tapping the corner post with his vine staff. He doesn't smile, but he doesn't yell. That's the highest praise you're going to get. "Secure the ropes," he says. "Wind's picking up tonight." You double-check the lashings. The wind whistles through the open framework of the tower. It makes a different sound than the wind over the ditch. The ditch moans, the tower shrieks. It's a woodwind instrument played by the weather. As night falls, the sentries climb up. You watch them go, their torches flickering. They reach the top and set the torches in brackets. Suddenly the skyline is dotted with fire, a ring of lights encircling the darkness of the hill. It's beautiful in a grim way. It looks like a necklace of stars that has fallen to earth. You sit by your campfire, scraping the pine resin off your hands with a knife. It's stubborn. You'll probably be sticky until the Ides of March. "You know," Titus says, looking up at the tower he just helped build, "if we had these back in Verona, I could have seen when my dad was coming home and hidden the wine." Strategic advantage, you nod. That's what it's all about. There is a mainstream historical fact here that is worth noting. Caesar's siege works at Alesia were so extensive that they became a tourist attraction in antiquity. People would come to see where the great lines were drawn, and looking at this forest of towers, you can see why. It's not just a battle, it's a monument to stubbornness. You think about the wood, thousands of trees, whole forests levelled to build this cage. The landscape of Gaul is being consumed to destroy its defenders. It's a harsh calculus. The tower creaks in the wind, groan, squeak. It sounds like it's settling in. It's getting comfortable. It plans to stay here for a while. You realise that your world has changed again. First it was the march, then the ditch, then the wall. Now the verticality. The war is moving upwards. You are layering defences like a cake, a very deadly, muddy cake. But the towers are just the observation deck. They are the eyes. They let you see the enemy coming. But what happens when they actually get close? What stops them before they reach the wall? The engineer mentioned something about lilies and gravestones tomorrow. That sounds nice. Maybe you're planting a garden. Knowing Caesar, though, it's probably a garden that bites. You finish your ration of grain. You feel the satisfaction of the builder. You made something today. It stands tall against the sky. It blocks out the stars. It watches the enemy while you sleep. You wrap your cloak around yourself. You listen to the creaking timber one last time. It's a lullaby of tension. The wood is holding. The line is holding. Tomorrow you sharpen sticks, thousands of them. But for now, let the towers do the watching. After the vertigo of the towers and the back-breaking labour of the rampart, today offers a rare and suspicious luxury. You get to sit down. Don't get too excited. You aren't sitting on a cushion, and you certainly aren't sipping wine. You're sitting on a damp log or a jagged rock, and your hands are about to become very intimate with a pile of wood. The order of the day is whittling. It sounds quaint, doesn't it? Like something a grandfather does on a porch while telling stories about the old country. But this is Roman military whittling, which means it is industrialized, repetitive, and designed to maim people. You are making Sippy. The word means boundary stones, or grave markers. It's a bit of dark legionary humour. You and the other guys came up with the name because, well, these things mark the boundary where the enemy stops living. It's a grim joke, but when you've been eating grain paste for a month, it passes for high comedy. The raw material is piled up in front of you, thick, sturdy branches, about the size of a man's thigh. They still have the smaller side branches attached, but they've been cut down to manageable lengths. Your job, and the job of the 1,000 men sitting in a line next to you, is to sharpen every single one of those side branches into a point. You pull out your knife, or maybe you use the smaller blade on your delabra. You grab a branch. The wood is likely oak or hawthorn, tough, dense stuff. You start to shave the bark away. Shk, shk. The sound is softer than the digging. It's a rhythmic whispering noise that ripples down the line. If you close your eyes, it sounds like a giant insect chewing on a forest. You peel back the green skin of the wood to reveal the white, hard core. You carve it down. You aren't looking for a needle point that will break off. You want a sturdy conical spike that can punch through leather or flesh and stay there. It takes a few minutes to get it right. You turn the branch, checking the angle. It looks like the antler of a very angry deer. Then you do the next branch, and the next. There is a mainstream historical fact that is essential to understanding this specific torture. Caesar's defences at Alesia weren't just a wall, they were a defence in depth. The Sippy are the first layer of the active traps. The towers and the ditch are the hard barriers, but the Sippy are the soft barrier meant to break up a charge. Soft is a relative term, of course. Falling on one of these is about as soft as hugging a porcupine. The work is monotonous, but it allows for conversation. This is the sewing circle of the siege. Heard Vercingetorix expelled the civilians, Titus says, not looking up from his whittling. He's carving a particularly nasty point on a knotty piece of oak. Just rumours, you say, blowing wood shavings off your tunic. No, the scouts saw them. Women, children, old men, just walking out the gates. And going where, you ask? We aren't letting them through. Exactly, Titus says grimly. Starvation zone. The conversation dies down. The reality of the siege sits heavy in the air, heavier than the wood in your lap. You focus on the knife. Slice. Turn, slice. The pile of shavings around your feet grows deep. It smells like fresh carpentry, a clean scent that masks the other smells of the camp. The latrines, the unwashed bodies, the smoke. After a few hours, your hands cramp. Your thumb feels like it's been hit with a hammer, but the pile of finished Sippy is growing. They look like weird abstract sculptures. The art of war, literally. Once you have enough prepared, the sitting is over. Now comes the planting. You move forward, past the main rampart you built, past the 20-foot ditch. You are in the killing zone now, the area between the Roman wall and the open field. The engineers have marked out 5 parallel trenches. These aren't the massive canyons you dug before. These are essentially planting beds, about 5 feet deep. You drag the Sippy to the trench. They are heavy. You drop them in. The idea is to lay them flat at the bottom, but with the sharpened branches sticking up. You lace them together. This is crucial. If they were just loose sticks, a Gaul could pull them out. But you weave the trunks together, interlocking the branches, so that the whole row becomes one solid, immovable mass. It's a wooden bramble. Then you fill the trench back up with earth, but only halfway. This is the trick. You bury the main trunks so they are anchored by the weight of the soil, but you leave the sharpened tips exposed. They stick up just above ground level, or sometimes just below the level of the tall grass. When you're done, it looks innocent. From a distance, it just looks like a patch of scrubby brush or a slightly uneven field. But if you try to walk through it, you are going to get snagged. If you try to run through it, you are going to get impaled. The genius of the Sippy is that they don't just kill, they slow. A charging army relies on momentum. They run, they scream, they crash into things. But you can't run through this. You have to pick your way through, stepping high, looking down. And while you are looking down, looking for the spikes, you are not looking up at the Roman on the tower, who is aiming a scorpion at your chest. It creates a traffic jam of death. You step back to admire your handiwork. It's 5 rows of these things. 5 rows of absolutely not. Reminds me of my aunt's garden, Titus says, wiping sweat from his forehead. She grows roses, same principle. Don't touch or you bleed. Your aunt sounds terrifying, you say. She is, she's Roman. There is a quirky little detail about these Kippi that shows just how improvised this whole siege is. The branches you're using aren't uniform. Some are oak, some are willow, some are applewood, looted from nearby orchards. The defence of the Roman Republic is literally being built out of the local landscaping. You are weaponizing the Gauls' own agriculture against them. As the sun climbs higher, the heat in the trench becomes oppressive. The air is still down here. You are sweating into the fresh earth. You have to be careful not to fall on your own spikes. That would be a very embarrassing way to die. Here lies Legionary Caius. He tripped. The centurion would probably resurrect you just to yell at you. Historians still argue whether the Sippi were used around the entire circuit of the circumvallation or just in the most vulnerable areas. It seems insane to think you did this for 11 miles. The sheer volume of wood, tens of thousands of trees, would be staggering. But looking at the treeless hills around you, stripped bare by the legion's axes, you think, yeah, we probably did. Probably did. Romans don't do things halfway. If Caesar says build a spike strip, you build a spike strip until you run out of continent. You take a break to drink some posca. It's warm, but the vinegar cuts the dust in your throat. You sit on the edge of the trench, your legs dangling over the pit of sharpened stakes. It's a weird feeling, dangling your feet over a weapon. You watch the engineers inspecting the work. They are walking along the lip of the trench, poking at the Sippi with poles. They want to make sure they are firm. If a branch wobbles, they bark an order, and a soldier jumps down to pack more dirt around the base. It has to be solid. Make them sharper, the engineer yells at a group down the line. I want them to go through a boot sole. You look at your own work. Is it sharp enough? You test a point with your thumb. It draws a drop of blood instantly. Yeah, it's sharp enough. The psychological aspect of this weapon is fascinating. It's a passive area denial weapon. It doesn't require a soldier to man it. It works while you sleep. It works while you eat. It's the ancient equivalent of a minefield. And just like a minefield, the fear of it is almost as effective as the thing itself. Once the Gauls realise these are here, they will hesitate. And in war, hesitation is fatal. The sun begins to lower, casting long shadows across the field. The Sippi cast jagged, spiky shadows that look like teeth. The whole ground looks like it's snarling. You climb out of the trench. Your tunic is covered in wood chips and dirt. You have splinters in your hands that you'll be picking out for days. But the line is secure. 5 rows, you mutter to yourself. Good luck with that. You gather your tools, the knife, the shovel. You feel a strange sense of ownership over this patch of dirt. You modified it. You took a flat piece of ground and turned it into a nightmare. It's a very Roman feeling. We came, we saw, we renovated. As you walk back to the camp, you pass the next shift coming out. They are carrying different tools. Weird, smaller stakes, iron hooks. The lilies and the spurs, the next layer of the onion. Have fun, you tell a guy from the 8th Legion as he passes. What's it like, he asks, gesturing to the trench. It's like gardening, you say, but angry. You reach your tent, you sit down again, but this time it's for real. You unlace your boots, your feet are swollen. You look at your hands, the calluses are getting thicker. You are turning into wood yourself. Dinner is lentils, again. But tonight you throw a handful of wild garlic you found near the tree line into the pot. It tastes like luxury. You listen to the camp noises, the clatter of armour, the distant braying of mules, and underneath it all, the silence of the Sippi. They are out there, waiting in the dark. You wonder if any animals will wander into them tonight. A deer? A wolf? It's a cruel thought. But war doesn't distinguish between a warrior and a rabbit. The line is the line. Hey, Titus whispers. Do you think we're the bad guys? We're the guys with the shovels, Titus, you reply, closing your eyes. Bad guys don't work this hard. Fair point, he says. You drift off to sleep. In your dreams you are a tree, and you are very, very sharp. The Sippi stand guard. They are the tombstones of the ambition of Gaul, and tomorrow you will plant the flowers in this garden of death. But they aren't roses, they are lilies, and you definitely don't want to smell them. You are standing in a field that looks, for all intents and purposes, like a perfectly normal meadow. The grass is waving gently in the breeze. The birds are singing, blissfully unaware that they are flying over the most dangerous piece of real estate in the ancient world. Yesterday you were a lumberjack. Today you are a gardener. But you aren't planting hydrangeas. You are planting lilies. The order comes down the line. Dig the pits, quincunx pattern. You grab a smaller spade for this. You aren't moving mountains of earth anymore. You're engaged in precision excavation. You walk out in front of the sipi, those rows of sharpened branches you planted yesterday. You are now about 20 yards closer to the enemy. It feels exposed out here. You keep glancing at the Gallic Wars, half expecting an arrow to thwack into the turf next to your boot. But the Gauls seem confused. They see you digging little holes and probably think you've lost your minds. Look, they might be saying, the Romans are looking for truffles. You mark out the spot. The quincunx pattern is the same layout as the 5 spot on a 6-sided die. It's a checkerboard arrangement designed to ensure that no matter which way a man runs, he has to weave back and forth to avoid the holes. It destroys momentum. It turns a charge into an obstacle course. You drive the spade into the earth. You are digging a pit about 3 feet deep. But here's the kicker. It's not a cylinder, it's a cone. You have to slope the sides inward so they narrow at the bottom. It requires a delicate touch. If the sides are too steep, they crumble. If they're too shallow, the enemy can just step out. You want a funnel. You want gravity to be your assistant. The soil here is loamy on top, transitioning to that stubborn clay underneath. You scoop out the dirt by hand once the hole gets too deep for the shovel. You are practically hugging the earth. It smells of wet roots and decay. Once the pit is dug, you reach for the stipes, the stake. This isn't just a raw stick. This is a piece of oak about as thick as your arm that has been lovingly crafted by the legion's carpenters. The top end is sharpened to a needlepoint, but before you got it, it spent some time in a fire. You can smell the char on it. It's fire hardened. This is a prehistoric technology that still works. By carefully charring the wood, you remove the moisture and make the point hard enough to punch through light armor or the sole of a boot. It's nature's steel. You place the stake in the bottom of the pit. You pack the clay around its base, tamping it down with a heavy stone or the handle of your hammer. It has to be firm. If a man steps on this, you don't want the stake to tip over. You want it to stand its ground. The stake doesn't come all the way to the top of the hole. That would be too obvious. It stops about 4 inches below the surface. It is a hidden promise of violence. Now comes the artistry. You can't just leave a gaping hole in the ground. You have to hide it. You gather brush, twigs, and handfuls of grass. You weave a delicate cover over the mouth of the pit. You sprinkle a little loose earth on top to blend it in. You stand back. The hole is gone. The ground looks solid. Watch your step, Titus warns, pointing to a spot 3 feet to your left. I planted that one 5 minutes ago. I know, you say, stepping carefully. I helped you dig it. Yeah, but they all look the same now. That's the problem. That is the problem. And that is the genius. The Romans call these lilia, lilies, because the shape of the conical pit with the stake in the middle resembles the flower of a lily. It's a dark, ironic joke. Come, the legionaries say, walk through our garden. It's a very specific kind of soldier humour that you only find in people who are extremely tired and possibly about to die. You move to the next spot in the grid. Dig, shape, plant, cover. There are 8 rows of these pits. 8 rows. That is a belt of hidden death 40 feet wide, circling the entire siege. Historians still argue about the sheer density of these traps. Caesar claims they were everywhere. Skeptics say that's impossible, that they must have only been in key sectors. But as you dig your 20th hole of the morning, sweating in the cool air, you're inclined to believe Caesar. The man is obsessive. If he wants lilies, he gets a bouquet. The work is quiet. There's no crashing of timber or clanging of iron. It's just the soft shushing of dirt and the snap of twigs. It feels domestic. It feels like landscaping. But every time you place a stake, you imagine the sound of a foot breaking through the cover. Crunch, scream. It's grim work. You are setting bear traps for humans. As you finish the lilies, you think you're done. But no, the garden has more layers. Stimuli, the centurion barks. Get the spurs. You trudge back to the supply wagons. You are handed a basket of things. They look like weird medieval torture devices, which is essentially what they are. They are blocks of wood, maybe a foot long, with iron hooks embedded in them. The hooks are barbed, like giant fishing hooks. These are the stimuli, the goads or spurs. You walk out past the lilies. You are now dangerously close to the open field. The grass here is long, untreated. It's wild. This is where the enemy cavalry will try to pick up speed. Your job is to make sure they regret that decision. You don't dig deep pits for these. You just dig shallow trenches, barely a scrape in the earth. You bury the wooden block so it's flush with the ground. The iron hook sticks up just an inch or two, hidden in the tufts of grass. The idea isn't to kill, it's to trip. If a horse steps on this, the hook catches the hoof. If a man runs over it, it catches his sandal or his bare foot. The barb digs in, he falls, and when he falls, the guy behind him trips over him. And while they are untangling themselves, the scorpions in the towers, remember those, start raining bolts down on the pile. It is a force multiplier. You are using the ground itself to fight the enemy. Planting the spurs is nerve-wracking. You are handling sharp iron with dirty, slippery hands. If you drop one on your foot, you become the first casualty of your own trap. You handle them gingerly, like sleeping vipers. These are nasty, Titus mutters, burying a hook near a patch of clover. Better than fighting them sword to sword, you reply. Is it? He asks. At least with a sword he sees you coming. This is rude. It's war, Titus. Politeness was the first casualty. There is a mainstream historical fact here that is worth pondering. This system of defence in depth effectively rendered the Roman soldier invincible without ever swinging a blade. By the time a Gaul reached the wall, he had to survive the spurs, the lilies, the grave markers, the ditch, and the rampart. It's a filter. Only the luckiest or most agile enemies make it to the fighting line, and by then they are exhausted and terrified. You pause to wipe your face. The sun is high now. The field before you shimmers in the heat. It looks completely empty. That's the scary part. You know intellectually that there are thousands of stakes and hooks out there, but your eyes just see grass. It creates a cognitive dissonance. The landscape is lying to you. You wonder if the local wildlife has figured it out yet. Probably not. There will be some very confused rabbits tonight. A group of engineers walks past, checking the spacing. They are meticulous. Too close together, one yells. Spread them out. We want them to think they have a path. That's the cruelty of it. You leave gaps. You want the enemy to see a safe lane, only to realise too late that the lane steers them right into the densest patch of lilies. It's herding. You are treating the Gallic warriors like cattle. The wind picks up, rustling the grass. It ripples across the field in waves. It conceals everything. The camouflage is perfect. You sit down for a moment on the edge of the lily field. You take a sip of water. Your hands are stained dark with the charcoal from the stakes. You look like a coal miner. You know, Titus says, chewing on a stalk of grass, which is risky considering where he pulled it from. If we win this, someone is going to have to clean all this up. That sounds like a problem for the future colonists, you say. True, free land in Gaul comes with free spikes. It's a valid point. You are polluting the land with iron and oak. For decades after this battle, farmers will probably be hitting these things with their ploughs. You are leaving a legacy of annoyance. The afternoon wears on. The supply of stakes runs low. You have to wait for the wagons to bring more. While you wait, you sharpen your own personal stakes, the suders you carry. Just in case. You never know when you might need to build a personal mini-fort. You look back at the towers. They loom over you, silent sentinels. The men up there have the best view. They can see the pattern of the pits. From up there, it probably looks like a polka dot dress spread out on the valley floor. A very deadly dress. A horn blows, the work detail is called back. The sun is setting, and you do not want to be out in the lily field in the dark. That is a recipe for disaster. 4. You retrace your steps carefully. You walk in single file, following the safe path that the engineers have marked with small white stones. You do not deviate. You do not take a shortcut. Left foot, right foot, you mutter. Don't trip. As you cross back over the Sippy Trench and behind the rampart, you feel a wave of relief. You are back inside the wire. You are safe. You look back at the field one last time. The twilight is settling in, turning the grass a deep, mysterious blue. The fireflies are coming out. It looks magical. But you know the truth. It is a minefield of antiquity. Sleep well, lilies, Titus whispers. Hope you catch something. You head to the mess tent. You are hungry, but the image of the hooks sticking out of the ground lingers in your mind. You check the soles of your boots. Just mud. Good. The genius of Caesar isn't just strategy. It's the understanding that a soldier who is digging traps is a soldier who isn't panicking. He keeps you busy. He makes you a partner in the destruction. You aren't just a victim of the siege. You are the architect of it. You lay down on your mat. Your back aches from the bending. Your hands are cramped from the digging. But there is a grim satisfaction. You have secured the perimeter. Tonight you sleep behind a wall, a ditch, a forest of grave markers, a garden of pits, and a lawn of hooks. If Vercingetorix wants to say hello, he's going to have to work for it. You close your eyes, and the last thing you hear is the wind whistling over the hidden pits. It sounds like the earth is breathing through 1,000 tiny mouths. The adrenaline of construction has faded, replaced by something much heavier and harder to carry. The rain. It starts as a drizzle, a fine mist that clings to your eyelashes and makes the wool of your cloak smell like a wet dog. Then it commits. The skies over Gaul open up with a grey, relentless enthusiasm, turning the valley of Alesia into a watercolour painting, left out in a storm. The sharp, crisp lines of the fortifications you spent weeks building, the vertical walls of the ditch, the neat stacks of turf, begin to soften. The edges blur. The world becomes a study in brown. You are now in the phase of the siege known as the wait. You wake up in your contubernium tent. It's a leather tent, supposedly waterproof, which is a hilarious joke the quartermaster tells. You share this space with 7 other men. It smells of 8 men who haven't bathed properly in a month, combined with the damp earth floor and the smoke of a small brazier that is struggling to stay lit. You sit up, your blanket is damp, your tunic is damp, your mood is damp. You reach for your boots, your caligae. They are stiff with cold mud. You have to beat them against the tent pole to knock off the dried clumps before you can jam your feet in. Outside, the camp has transformed. The neat grid of streets is now a network of canals. The famous Roman discipline is currently being applied to the art of not slipping and falling on your face while carrying a bucket of water. You step out. The mud sucks at your sandals with a loud schlup sound. It's a specific type of Gallic mud, clay-heavy, sticky, and seemingly magnetic to iron. It coats everything. Your greaves, your scabbard, your sole. You spend half your day just trying to scrape it off your gear so it doesn't rust. Morning, Titus grunts, wading past you with a bundle of firewood wrapped in a dry skin. Is it, you ask, looking at the leaden sky? Technically, he says. The sun is up there somewhere, allegedly. The main activity of the day is eating, or rather, the preparation of eating. You are issued your ration of fermentum, grain. It's wheat, usually. You have to grind it yourself using a heavy hand mill carried by the squad. Grind, grind, grind. It's a workout. Then you mix the flour with water and a bit of salt to make a paste, which you bake on a hot stone or an iron plate into buccalatum hardtack. It's rock hard. You have to dunk it in your posca, that vinegar water mix, just to make it edible without cracking a molar. It tastes like wet cardboard and resignation, but it keeps you alive. Historians often marvel at how the Roman army conquered the world on a vegetarian diet of carbs. Standing here in the rain, chewing on a biscuit that could double as a roof tile, you are less marvelled and more just full. There's a mainstream historical fact that's relevant here. Caesar was a master of logistics, but even he couldn't control the weather. The supply lines were stretched thin. You are constantly hearing rumours that the grain is running out. I heard the forage parties came back empty yesterday, someone whispers by the fire. I heard we're going to start eating the horses. Don't be stupid, you reply. The horses are worth more than we are. You spend the morning on maintenance. The rain is the enemy of engineering. The beautiful vertical walls of the 20-foot ditch are starting to slump. You and a detail are sent out with shovels to clear the sludge from the bottom. It's miserable work. You are standing in knee-deep water, shoveling liquid mud out of a hole, while the rain fills it back up. It feels like a punishment from the gods. Why are we cleaning a ditch that's meant to kill people? A new recruit whines. Because if it fills up with mud, they can walk across it, the centurion snaps. Dig. You look up at the towers. The hides covering them are sodden and sagging. The wood has swelled. The scorpions have to be kept covered with oiled leather tarps, or the torsion springs, made of twisted sinew and hair, will lose their tension. A limp scorpion is useless. So the engineers are up there, cursing and greasing, trying to keep the high-tech weaponry functional in low-tech weather. The boredom is a physical weight. You have built the trap, and now you are just waiting for the prey to step in it. But Vercingetorix isn't moving. He's just sitting up there on his hill, getting rained on too. To pass the time, you gamble. Romans are addicted to gambling. You play with tali, knucklebones from sheep or goats. You scratch a board into a dry patch of dirt inside the tent, or on a shield if the ground is wet, and throw the bones. The sides have values. Canis, dog, is the worst throw, all ones, and Venus is the best, all different numbers. You bet your future rations, your loot, your chores. Venus, Titus crows, sweeping a pile of copper coins toward his side of the mat. You loaded those bones, you accuse him, but without heat. It's just something to say. There is a quirky, slightly gross tidbit about camp life during a siege. Pests. With thousands of men and animals crammed together in the mud, you get guests. Fleas, lice, rats. You spend a good hour every evening shirt hunting, picking lice out of the seams of your tunic. It's a communal grooming session, like a troop of monkeys, but with more swearing. Some of the guys swear that rubbing garlic on your skin keeps them away. Others swear by boiling your tunic in urine, which contains ammonia. You stick to just picking them off. The smell in the tent is bad enough already. You walk the perimeter in the afternoon. The sippy, the grave markers, look particularly grim in the rain. The wood is darkening, turning black. The lilies are filling with water, turning into deadly little puddles. The spurs are rusting, hidden in the wet grass. The whole landscape looks diseased. You look up at Alesia. The smoke from their fires is thin. They are starving up there. You know it. You can see it in the way they move on the walls. Slow, lethargic. Sometimes they come out to the ramparts and just stare at you. You stare back. It's a weird intimacy. You are sharing this misery. They are wet. You are wet. They are hungry. You are bored. I wonder what they're eating, you muse. Probably their shoes, Titus says, or each other. Scholars still debate exactly how long this phase of the siege lasted. Was it a month? 6 weeks? The timeline is fuzzy because boredom blurs time. In your head it feels like years. Every day is the same grey loop. Wake, dig, eat, wait, sleep. The calendar of the siege is measured in mud depth, not days. One of the strangest things is the silence of the battlefield during the rain. The birds stop singing. The wind dies down. The only sound is the shh of the falling water. It muffles orders. It hides movement. It makes you paranoid. Is that the sound of rain, or is it 1,000 ghouls creeping through the tall grass? You strain your ears. Nothing. Just the drip, drip, drip on your helmet rim. You check your weapons. The dampness is a killer for iron. You have to oil your gladius and your pilum constantly. You use a rag soaked in olive oil, if you have it, or animal fat. You rub the metal until it shines, then you hide it back in the scabbard. A rusty sword is a court-martial offence, and also it might break when you hit a bone, which is inconvenient. There's a fringe theory, or maybe just a camp legend, that some soldiers started adopting local Gallic fashion out of necessity, wearing braque trousers instead of just the tunic to keep their legs warm. It's strictly against regulation. Trousers are for barbarians, but when the centurion isn't looking, you might wrap strips of wool around your legs. It looks ridiculous, but it stops the chafing. As evening approaches, the rain eases off, leaving a thick, low mist hanging over the valley. This is the dangerous time. The visibility drops to 0. The sentries on the towers ring their bells or blow low notes on the cornu to signal that they can't see. The tension ratchets up. You are on guard duty tonight. You stand on the rampart, leaning on your shield. The wood of the palisade is slick. The air is cold. You stare into the white void of the mist. Identify yourself, you bark at a shadow moving near the gate. It's the water wagon, you idiot, comes the weary reply. Pass, water wagon. You stand there for hours. Your feet are numb, blocks of ice. You shift your weight from leg to leg. You think about Rome. You think about the baths. Warm, clean water, steam, marble floors. It feels like a different planet. Here the world is made of sticks and dirt. You watch the lights of Alesia flickering in the fog. They look like ghost lights. You wonder if Vercingetorix is sleeping. Probably not. He's probably pacing, counting his grain stores, looking at the same mist. The sheer scale of the operation hits you again in the quiet moments. You are part of a city that was built in a month. A city of 50,000 soldiers and thousands of support staff, mules, horses and slaves. And it's all temporary. When this is over, you will burn it all down and march away. It's ephemeral architecture. Suddenly a commotion near the north gate. Shouting, torches flaring. You grip your pylon. Is this it? Is it the breakout? No, it's a supply wagon that got stuck in the mud. An axle broke. Men are cursing, trying to lift it out of the sucking clay. The crisis is logistical, not martial. You relax, but your heart is still hammering. The boredom has made you jumpy. You finish your watch and head back to the tent. The fire has burned down to embers. The other guys are asleep, snoring in a chorus of exhaustion. The air is thick with the smell of wet wool and farts. It is the most comforting smell in the world right now, because it means you are safe. You lie down. You don't take off your armor. You never know. You just loosen the belt. You pull your blanket up to your chin. The rain starts again. Pat, pat, pat. It taps on the leather roof. It's a lullaby for the siege. Hey, Titus mumbles in his sleep. Pass the wine. Dream on, you whisper. The long wait continues. The mud deepens, the walls soften, but you stay hard. You have to, because you know that this quiet isn't peace. It's the deep breath before the scream. You close your eyes, and for a moment, you are just a man in a tent, listening to the rain, wishing he was anywhere else in the world but the valley of the Mandubii. The rain has stopped, but the atmosphere is heavier than ever. The air feels thick, pressurized, like the moment before a thunderstorm breaks, except the storm is entirely human. You are on guard duty on the rampart, leaning against the damp timber of the palisade. It's mid-morning. The sun is trying to push through the cloud cover, casting a pale, sickly light over the valley. You are looking up at the plateau, just like you have for weeks. But today, something is different. The gates of the oppidum are opening. Your hand instinctively tightens on your pylon. A shout goes down the line. Movement at the gates! The centurions are barking orders. The scorpions in the towers are cranked back. The tension in the twisted ropes, groaning. You expect a charge. You expect the wild scream of warriors. The flash of swords. The desperate, suicidal rush of men who have decided to die fighting rather than starving. But there is no scream. There is no charge. Instead, a slow, dark stream begins to trickle out of the gates. It's not an army. It looks like a shadow spilling down the slope. As they get closer, stumbling over the rough ground, the shapes resolve into people. But not warriors. These are the Mandubii, the tribe who actually owns Alesia. These are the people who opened their city to Vercingetorix, who gave him their food, their beds, their protection. And now, in a calculation of brutal arithmetic, Vercingetorix has decided they are useless mouths. You watch them come down the hill. It is a slow, pathetic parade. Old men leaning on sticks, women carrying bundles of rags that you realize are babies, children holding onto their mothers' tunics, their eyes wide and hollow. They are walking towards you, towards the Roman lines. What are they doing? The new recruit next to you whispers. His voice is trembling. They're coming out, Titus says, his face uncharacteristically grim. They think we'll let them pass. They reach the edge of the killing zone, the area just before the Sipi and the lilies you planted. They stop. They know the traps are there. A few of the elders step forward, raising their hands. They aren't surrendering in the military sense. They are begging. You can hear their voices drifting across the gap. It's a thin, wailing sound. They are shouting in Gallic, but the tone is universal. Take us, feed us, enslave us, just don't let us die. You look at the centurion. He is looking at the legate. The legate is looking at Caesar's command tent. The chain of command is paralyzed for a moment. Surely you take them. Slavers trail the army like vultures. These people are valuable commodities. It's a cruel mercy, but it's better than death. Then the order comes back. It is simple, absolute, and terrifying. Hold the line, no one passes. You blink. You look at the crowd of civilians, maybe a few thousand of them, huddled in the strip of land between the Gallic Wars and your trench. No one, the recruit asks. No one, the centurion snaps. If they come closer, you fire. If they try to cross the ditch, you kill them. This is the cold, hard logic of siege warfare. Caesar knows that Vercingetorix expelled them to save his grain supplies for his warriors. If Caesar takes them in, he has to feed them, depleting your grain. If he lets them pass through the lines, he relieves the pressure on the Gauls. By refusing them, he turns them into a weapon. They are now a psychological battering ram aimed at the defenders on the hill. So, you stand there. You, a soldier of Rome trained to fight the fiercest warriors in the world, are now guarding a wall against starving grandmothers. The Mandubii realize what is happening. A cry goes up, a collective sound of despair that makes the hair on your arms stand up. They turn back to the city. They shout up at the walls of Alesia, "Let us back in," but the gates are shut. Vercingetorix isn't opening them. He has made his choice. The warriors on the walls look down, stone-faced. They can't look at their own wives and mothers. Or maybe they are looking, and that's the point. The civilians are trapped. They are caught in the no man's land. Behind them, a locked gate. In front of them, a wall of spears. You watch as they settle down in the grass. They have nowhere else to go. They huddle together for warmth. The crying doesn't stop, but it changes. It becomes a low, constant background noise, like the wind or the river. It grates on your nerves. It burrows into your skull. "This is messed up," Titus mutters, staring at a woman trying to nurse an infant 100 yards away. "It's war," you say, but the words taste like ash. "No, fighting is war," he says. This is just math, cruel math." Historians will later debate the morality of this moment for 2,000 years. Was Caesar a monster? Was Vercingetorix the monster for kicking them out? Was it just the inevitable collision of two desperate forces? Standing there, gripping your shield until your knuckles turn white, you don't care about the history books. You just want them to stop screaming. The sun begins to set. The temperature drops. You can see the civilians shivering. They have no shelter. They are exposed on the open slope. Night falls, but it brings no relief. In fact, it's worse. Now you can't see them, but you can hear them. The darkness amplifies the sound. A child crying for its mother. A man shouting curses at the Romans, then at the Gauls, then at the gods. You try to focus on your duty. You stare into the dark, watching for the relief army. Remember them? The massive force that is supposed to be coming to save the day? You almost wish they would show up right now. A battle would be a distraction. A battle would be loud and chaotic and honest. This silence, punctuated by sobbing, is unbearable. You take a sip of posca. It tastes sour. You feel guilty for having it. You feel guilty for being warm. "Throw them some bread," the recruit whispers. "Are you crazy?" Titus hisses. "The centurion will flog you." "Just a piece, they're right there." "If you feed one, they all rush the wall," you say, your voice flat. "And then they fall into the lilies. And then we have to kill them." Don't do it. It's the hardest thing you've ever had to do. Not climbing the wall, not digging the ditch, but standing still and doing nothing while humanity dies 5 distinct paces away. The next morning, the silence is different. It's patchy. Some of them have stopped crying because they are too weak. Some of them have stopped because they are dead. You see bodies in the grass. A few old men didn't make it through the night. The living are sitting next to the dead, too exhausted to move them. They just stare at you. Their eyes are sunken, accusatory. They are judging you. Caesar rides by the lines. He doesn't look away. He looks at the Mandubii, then he looks at the walls of Alesia. He is measuring the resolve of Vercingetorix. He is waiting for the Gallic king to break. It's a staring contest, and the stakes are thousands of innocent lives. But Vercingetorix doesn't blink. The gates stay closed. The days drag on. Yes, days. They are out there for days. They start eating the grass. They dig for roots with their bare hands. You watch a fight break out over a dead rat. It's primal. It's the disintegration of civilization happening in real time, right in front of your face. There is a fringe theory that some Roman soldiers, disobeying orders, did smuggle food to them. A loaf of bread thrown over the palisade in the dark, a skin of water, but it's a drop in the ocean. and every time it happens, the centurions crack down harder. Discipline is the only thing holding the legion together. If you start feeling pity, you stop being a soldier. The smell begins to drift towards the Roman lines. It's the smell of sickness, of unwashed bodies, and eventually of death. The wind carries it over the rampart. You wrap your scarf around your face. You try to breathe through your mouth. "I hate this place," the recruit says. He's crying quietly. He's barely 18. He thought war was glory. He didn't know war was watching a toddler starve. "Keep your eyes on the horizon," you tell him gently. "Don't look down." But you can't help it. You look, you see a woman standing up, holding her child up towards the Gallic Walls. She screams something. A name maybe? A husband? A brother? There is no answer from the stone ramparts. She collapses. She doesn't get up again. This is the psychological warfare of Alesia. It's not just about walls and ditches. It's about who can endure the horror longer. Caesar is betting that the sight of their own people dying will break the Gauls' spirit. Vercingetorix is betting that the Romans will crack first, or that the relief army will arrive before the guilt becomes unbearable. It is a stalemate of suffering. Finally, the sounds from the no man's land grow fainter. The energy is gone. They are just huddled lumps of misery now. The shock has worn off, replaced by a slow, inevitable fading. You feel a hardening inside yourself, a callus forming over your soul. You stop seeing them as people. You start seeing them as terrain. Obstacles. It's a defense mechanism. If you let yourself feel this, you will break. And you cannot break. You are a legionary of the 10th. You are a brick in the wall. "Guard change," the officer barks. You step down from the rampart. You walk back to your tent. You sit down. You look at your hands. They are the same hands that dug the ditch, that whittled the stakes, that held the shield. They feel alien to you. "Pass the dice," you say to Titus. "You want to play?" "I need to look at something else," you say. "Just roll." You play for hours. You play until you can't hear the weeping anymore. You play until the only reality is the click-clack of the bones on the wooden board. Outside, the sun sets on the Mandubii plateau. The shadows of the city stretch out to touch the dying civilians. The trap you built has caught the wrong prey. And up on the hill, the warriors of Vercingetorix are watching too. And they are hungry, and they are angry, and they know that for them, there is no mercy coming from the Roman lines. The only way out is through you. The desperation has peaked. The tension is a physical wire pulled so tight, it hums. Something has to snap. And somewhere in the distance, beyond the hills, you hear a rumble. Thunder? No, the sky is clear. It's the drums. The silence after the Mandubii incident is not peaceful. It is heavy. It's the kind of silence that has weight, pressing down on your helmet and squeezing your chest. The wailing in the no man's land has faded to a few sporadic sobs, but the psychological toll hangs over the camp like a toxic fog. You are exhausted, not just physically, but spiritually. It is late, or maybe early. The concept of time has become loose and fluid. You are on the night watch again, standing on the fighting platform of a tower in the northern sector. The moon is hidden behind a thick blanket of clouds, turning the valley into a bowl of ink. The only light comes from the dying embers of the watchfires and the occasional torch flickering on the Gallic walls. You are leaning against the railing, fighting the urge to close your eyes for just a second. The wind is blowing from the north, carrying the smell of wet grass and distant charcoal. Then you hear it. At first, it's just a vibration in the wood of the tower. Thump, 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 thump. It's rhythmic, low frequency. You stiffen. Is it your heartbeat? No. It's coming from the ground. It's coming from the hill. You signal to Titus, who is dozing near the scorpion. "Wake up," you hiss. "Listen." He groans, shakes his head, and listens. The sound grows louder. It's not the chaotic shuffle of infantry. It's the distinct, muffled thunder of hooves. Lots of them. But it sounds wrong. It's softer than it should be. It sounds like someone is beating a drum with a wool blanket. "Cavalry," Titus whispers, his eyes widening. They wrapped the hooves. It's a breakout. Down below, the sentries on the rampart have heard it too. A shout goes up. "Ad arma! To arms!" The cry ripples down the line, waking the camp. Men stumble out of tents, grabbing shields and swords, their eyes bleary, but their instincts sharp. But the Gauls aren't attacking the wall directly in front of you. They are moving fast, a dark river of horsemen flowing towards a specific point in the Roman lines. A section near the river Osse, where the ditch hasn't been fully dug yet, where the Scipii are sparse. It's a weak point, and Vercingetorix knows it. You watch from the tower as the shadow detach from the darkness of the hill. It's the Gallic cavalry, all of them. Not a raiding party, but the entire mounted aristocracy of the Arverni. They aren't charging to fight, they are charging to escape. They hit the gap in the line like a battering ram. The noise explodes. The muffled stealth is gone, replaced by the screaming of horses, the clash of iron, and the frantic shouting of the Roman guards in that sector. It's chaotic. You can see sparks flying in the distance as swords hit shields. "Load the scorpion," you yell at Titus. "I can't see them," he shouts back, fumbling with the winch. "It's too dark. Just shoot at the noise." He pulls the trigger. Twang. The heavy bolt disappears into the night. You have no idea if it hit anything. It probably just stuck into a tree. The fight at the gap is fierce but brief. The Roman sentries there are overwhelmed by the sheer mass of the horsemen. The Gauls aren't stopping to kill. They are pushing through, trampling the lilies, jumping the half-finished ditches, scrambling up the muddy banks. They are driven by pure desperation. You watch as the stream of riders bursts through the blockade and scatters into the open countryside behind your lines. They fan out like a spray of water. One moment they are a cohesive unit. The next they are hundreds of individual shadows racing towards the horizon. And then they are gone. The sound of hoofbeats fades into the distance, swallowed by the vastness of Gaul. The Roman trumpet blows the stand down signal, but nobody stands down. Everyone is standing up, looking at the gap where the enemy just vanished. "They got away," the recruit next to you whispers. He sounds impressed. "I didn't think anyone could get out." "That's not good," you say, your stomach dropping. "That is really, really not good." "Why?" he asks. "That's fewer mouths for them to feed, right? Less soldiers to fight." You look at him, and you realise he doesn't understand the mechanics of this war yet. "Kid," you say, "those weren't deserters, those were messengers." Vercingetorix hasn't just sent his cavalry away to save them. He has sent them to fetch the rest of Gaul. Every single rider who escaped is going to a different tribe. The Aedui, the Sequani, the Carnutes. They are going to show their starving faces and tell the story of the siege. They are going to shame every warrior in the country into coming here. The relief army isn't just a rumour anymore. It has just been summoned. Caesar rides out to the breach immediately. You can see his torchlight procession moving aggressively towards the river. He doesn't look like a man who is happy about fewer mouths to feed. He looks like a man who knows the clock has just started ticking. Historians still argue about exactly when this breakout happened. Was it this late in the siege, after the civilians were expelled? Or was it earlier? The sequence is messy, but standing there in the dark, the timeline doesn't matter. What matters is the result. The quarantine is broken. The virus of rebellion has just escaped the lab. The rest of the night is sleepless. The camp is buzzing with anxiety. The officers are yelling. The engineers are already at the breach, driving new stakes, digging frantically to close the hole. But it's like locking the door after the wolf has already run out to get his pack. You sit by the fire, sharpening your gladius. The rhythmic shk of the whetstone is the only thing that calms your nerves. "How long do you think we have?" Titus asks. He's not making jokes tonight. "A month, you guess? Maybe less. Gaul is big, but news travels fast. So we have to take the hill before they get back. Or, you say, looking at the darkness behind you, we have to be ready to fight two armies at once." There is a quirky, almost cinematic detail about this escape that the veterans talk about. They say that the Gallic horses are so sure-footed they can navigate the stimuli, the hidden spurs, better than men. It's like they can smell the iron. You wonder if that's true, or if the Gauls just rode over the bodies of the first horses to fall. Probably the latter. It's a grim image. Bridge of horseflesh. The sun comes up on a changed world. The Siege of Alesia is no longer a static waiting game. It is now a race. You can feel the shift in urgency. The lethargy of the rain-soaked days is gone. The centurions are moving with a frantic energy. "Double rations," one shouts. "Work detail assemble. We aren't done digging." "Not done," Titus groans. "We built the wall, we built the towers. We built the Garden of Death. What else is there? You point behind you, to the open fields where the cavalry disappeared, to the empty hills that will soon be full of screaming barbarians. We built a wall to keep them in, you say. Now we have to build a wall to keep the rest of the world out. This is the insanity of Alesia. You are about to engage in the greatest construction project in military history, the contravallation. You have to build a second donut, a second ring of fortifications facing outward. You are going to be the meat in a very dangerous sandwich. You grab your shovel. The handle feels familiar, like an extension of your arm. Back to the mud, you say. As you march to the rear of the camp, you look up at the hill one last time. Vercingetorix is up there. He must be watching the horizon too. He knows his riders made it. He's counting the days just like you are. He's not starving anymore. He's waiting. Hope is a powerful thing. It can keep a man alive longer than bread. And hope is exactly what you have to crush. You reach the surveyor's line. It's the same routine as before. The groma, the stakes, the yelling. But this line is longer. It has to encompass the entire Roman camp, the inner wall, the forage grounds, everything. It's going to be 14 miles long, 14 miles of ditch, rampart and tower, and you have to do it before the relief army arrives. You strike the earth, thunk. The sound echoes. It's the sound of the second act beginning. The first act was a tragedy of starvation. The second act is going to be a thriller. Hey, the recruit says, digging next to you. If we get surrounded, who surrounds the guys surrounding us? Don't start with a philosophy, kid, you grunt. Just dig. But he's right. It's absurd. You are besieging a city while being besieged by a country. It's a nesting doll of war. The day warms up. The sweat returns. The familiar ache in your back returns. But there is a new fear now. Every time you look over your shoulder at the distant tree line, you expect to see a spear. You expect to see the vanguard of the 250,000 warriors that the riders are summoning. You are digging for your life now. This isn't just a job, this is survival. If this wall isn't finished when they get here, you are dead. If the ditch isn't deep enough, you are dead. If the stakes aren't sharp enough, you are dead. It is the ultimate motivation. You dig faster. The dirt flies. The basket fills. You are a machine. You are a Roman legionary, and you are going to change the geography of Gaul or die trying. You are standing in the mud again, but this time your back is to the enemy. It is a profound psychological shift. For weeks your entire universe has been oriented inward, toward the hill of Alesia. Every shovel of dirt, every sharpened stake, every glare from a centurion was focused on Vercingetorix. He was the centre of gravity, but now the order has been given to about face. You turn around, you look out at the rolling hills of Burgundy, at the forests that stretch to the horizon, at the rivers that wind away into the rest of Gaul. It looks peaceful, it looks empty, but you know, with a sick feeling in your gut, that it is neither. Somewhere out there, beyond the tree line, a massive storm is gathering. Same drill, the centurion bellows, walking down the line of weary men. Same dimensions, same traps, but bigger. You groan. It's the collective groan of 40,000 men who just realise they have to do their homework all over again. But this time, the assignment is 20% longer. The inner line, the circumvallation, was 11 miles long. This new line, the contravallation, has to be 14 miles. That's roughly 21 kilometres of earth to move, timber to fell, and spikes to whittle. And you have to do it while looking over your shoulder. You grab your delabra, the handle is smooth where your sweat has polished the wood. You step out to the new survey line. It feels wrong to be this exposed. When you were digging the inner line, you had the legions behind you. Now, you are the furthest point out. If the relief army arrives today, you are the speed bump. You strike the ground. Thump. The earth here is different. It hasn't been trampled by the siege yet. It's fresh meadow. You are slicing into virgin turf. It smells sweet, like clover and wild onions. It's almost a shame to ruin it. Why 14 miles? Titus asks, struggling to pull a rock out of the clay. Why not just tighter? Because we need room, you grunt, swinging your pick. Room for the horses, room for the baggage, room to run away if they break through. We don't run, Titus says, but he checks the distance, to the inner wall anyway. This is the reality of the donut defence. You are building a fortress that is hollow in the middle. You are effectively creating a ribbon of Roman territory that is only a few hundred yards wide. Inside that ribbon is the entire army. Outside is everyone else. The logistics of this second wall are a nightmare. You've already stripped the local forests for the first wall. Now you have to go further afield to get timber. Foraging parties are sent out with heavy escorts. You watch them leave in the morning. Carts, mules, nervous-looking soldiers. You count them when they come back in the evening. Sometimes the count is off, a cart breaks a wheel, a mule runs off, or maybe a Gallic scouting party picked them off. You don't ask. You just grab the wood they bring and start building. Because wood is scarce, the engineers get creative, or desperate. Use more turf, they shout. Build the rampart higher with dirt, save the timber for the towers. So you become a mud mason. You cut thousands more sod bricks. You stack them until your hands are stained permanently brown. The rampart rises, thick and heavy. It feels less elegant than the inner wall, more brutish. It's a wall born of panic. There is a mainstream historical fact that is crucial here. The sheer scale of these earthworks is almost without parallel in ancient warfare. To build 2 complete circuits of fortifications, totaling 25 miles in circumference, in hostile territory, while starving, is a feat that defies logic. It's the kind of thing that only happens when the alternative is being massacred. You are digging the outer ditch now. It's the same design as the inner one. V-shaped, deep, treacherous. But you're tired. Your muscles have nothing left to give. You are burning calories you don't have. The grain ration has been cut again. You are running on adrenaline and posca. Dig deeper, the centurion yells. If a horse can jump it, you die. You look at the bottom of the ditch. It's filling with water from the water table. You are standing in sludge. You scoop it out with your helmet because your basket has rotted through. It's degrading. You are a soldier of the 10th Legion, the pride of the Republic, and you are bailing out a ditch with your hat. As you work, you start to feel the sandwich effect. To your front, which is actually your rear, you have the inner wall and the starving Gauls of Alesia. To your back, which is now your front, you have the empty horizon. You are trapped in a corridor of your own making. The psychological strain is different now. Before, the threat was contained. You knew where Vercingetorix was. He was on the hill. You could point to him. Now the threat is everywhere. The relief army could come from the north, the south, the east. The woods are full of ghosts. Did you hear that? A soldier whispers, stopping his digging to stare at the tree line. It's just a deer, you say, though your hand drifts to your sword hilt. That's what they said about the cavalry, he mutters. The rumours in the camp are wild. They say there are 250,000 of them coming. I heard it's 500,000. I heard they have giants. Gauls are already giants, Titus points out, so that's redundant. Scholars still debate the actual size of the relief army. Caesar claims it was 250,000 men. Modern historians think he might have exaggerated to make himself look better, suggesting maybe 80,000 to 100,000. But standing in the ditch, looking at the thin line of Roman troops stretched over 14 miles, the difference between 100,000 and 250,000 is academic. Either number is enough to crush you like a bug. You reach the sector near the river plain. This is the danger zone. It's flat. It's perfect for cavalry. The engineers order the full package here, the works. Lilies, sippy, spurs, everything. So you go back to gardening. You dig the pits. You sharpen the stakes. But you do it with a frenzied speed now. You aren't planting a garden. You are planting a minefield in a panic. The patterns are less neat. The spacing is a bit more chaotic. Just get it in the ground. You look at the sippy, the grave markers. You are planting them facing out. It's a weird mirror image of the inner line. If you stood in the middle of the camp, you would see spikes facing away from you in both directions. You are the soft centre of a very prickly fruit. There is a quirky detail about the construction of the outer line, the use of water. In some sections where the rivers allowed, Caesar ordered dams and diversions to flood the low-lying areas in front of the walls. You spend a miserable 3 days hauling rocks to block a stream. The water rises, turning the field into a swamp. Good, the engineer nods, watching the mud turn into soup. Let them try to run through that. It's effective, sure, But it also means the mosquitoes are having a field day. The air is thick with them. You slap your neck, leaving a smear of blood and dirt. Roman blood, Titus says. They love the vintage. As the days turn into a week, the wall starts to close. The 14-mile circle is nearing completion. You can see the two ends of the construction crews meeting in the distance. When they finally link up, a cheer goes up. It's a ragged, tired cheer, but it's there. You are enclosed. You are sealed in. You walk the ramparts of the new outer wall. It's high. It's strong. The towers are up, looking out over the plains. The scorpions are mounted. You feel a momentary surge of pride. You have built a fortress that faces the world. But then you look inward. You see the camp. It's crowded. Tents are jammed together. The latrines are overflowing because there's nowhere else to dig them. The smoke from the cooking fires hangs low, trapped between the two walls. It's claustrophobic. We're in a prison, the recruit says, looking around. No, you correct him. We're in a castle. It just happens to be inside another castle. That makes no sense. Welcome to the army. The scarcity of food becomes the dominant conversation. The foraging parties have stopped going out. It's too dangerous now. The scouts report dust clouds on the horizon. The relief army is close, so you are eating what you have. Grain again? Titus asks, looking at his bowl of grey mush. Be glad it's not leather, you say. My cousin in Spain ate his boots. Did he boil them first? I assume so. He said the laces were like spaghetti. You ration everything. You count every bean. You save the crusts of your hardtack. You see men hoarding scraps of bone to boil for broth. The hunger makes everyone irritable. Fights break out over nothing. A spilled drop of water, a look, a snore. The centurions break them up with brutal efficiency. They know that if discipline cracks now, it's over. You are assigned to the outer wall permanently now. This is your home. You sleep at the base of the rampart. You eat on the fighting platform. You stare at the horizon until your eyes burn. The landscape out there is taunting you. It's lush, it's green. There are probably deer in those woods. Rabbits, boars, food, but you can't touch it. It belongs to the enemy now. I see smoke, a sentry calls out. You rush to the wall. Far away to the west, a thin column of grey rises into the sky. Then another, then another. They are signal fires, the tribes are communicating. They are coordinating. They're here, you whisper. It's not the main army yet. Just the vanguard, the scouts, the eyes of the enemy. They are out there, watching your wall, looking for weaknesses. They are seeing the fresh earth, the towers, the spikes. They are measuring you, just like you measured Vercingetorix. You realise that the roles have reversed. You are now the besieged. You are the one trapped in a box. And the people coming to kill you aren't just an army, they are a nation. Check your piler, the centurion orders. Check your straps. Tomorrow we might not be digging. You sit down to check your gear. Your pilum, the heavy javelin, is your best friend. The soft iron shank is designed to bend on impact so the enemy can't throw it back. It's a one-use weapon. You have two of them. You sharpen the points with a stone. Scrape, scrape. You look at the gladius. It's short, brutal, efficient. It's meant for stabbing, not slashing. It's meant for the press of bodies where there is no room to swing. And looking at the narrow space between the walls, you know there will be no room. Hey, Titus says quietly, if we die here, don't, you say. No, seriously, if we die here, do you think they'll bury us? Or just leave us in the ditch? They'll leave us, you say honestly. We're just part of the wall now, Titus. We're just more dirt. It's a grim thought, but it's liberating. You are part of the architecture. You are the mortar holding this insane structure together. The sun sets, turning the sky a bruised purple. The signal fires on the horizon burn brighter. They form a semicircle. They are surrounding the surrounders. You climb up into one of the outer towers. The wind is cold. You wrap your cloak tight. You look down at the 14 miles of fortifications. It's ugly. It's scarred. It's magnificent. It is the greatest refusal in history. You have said no to the hill, and now you are saying no to the horizon. Let them come, you whisper to the wind. We're ready. But your hands are shaking. Just a little. Because you know that when that human ocean hits this wall, physics will take over. And you are just a very small object in the path of a very large force. The digging is done. The shovel is put away. Now you wait for the thunder. It starts with a vibration. You are sitting on a wooden crate near the outer rampart, the contravallation, trying to fix a loose strap on your sandal. You have a cup of water sitting on a flat stone next to you. It's quiet, or as quiet as a camp of 50,000 anxious men can be. The air is still. The birds, who have been understandably scarce lately, are nowhere to be seen. Then you notice the water in the cup. It ripples, just a tiny concentric ring starting from the centre and trembling out to the clay rim. Plink. Then another one. Plink. You stop working on the sandal. You look at the ground. You can feel it through the soles of your feet, a low thrumming resonance that travels up your shin bones and settles in your stomach. It's not an earthquake. The frequency is too high. It's a rhythmic driving beat, like a giant heart waking up under the crust of the earth. Titus, you say, not looking up from the water. Do you feel that? Feel what? He asks, chewing on a piece of dried beef. The ground. He stops chewing. He puts a hand flat on the earth. His eyes go wide. That's a lot of horses. You grab your helmets and scramble up the ladder to the nearest watchtower. The wood creaks under your weight, or maybe it's vibrating too. You reach the platform and look out to the west, towards the rolling hills, where the sun is currently hiding behind a bank of clouds. At first, you don't see an army. You just see a change in the texture of the horizon. The tree line seems to be thickening, darkening. It looks like a shadow is detaching itself from the forest and spilling forward onto the plain. It's a dark, amorphous stain spreading across the green and brown fields of Gaul. Then the sun breaks through a gap in the clouds, and the stain sparkles. It's metal. Thousands upon thousands of spear tips, helmets, and torques catching the light. The mass resolves into individuals, then into units, then into an ocean. It stretches from the Brenny River all the way to the northern hills. It is a wall of humanity moving towards you. This is the relief army. Historians and archaeologists still argue furiously about the numbers here. Caesar, in his commentaries, claims there were 250,000 infantry and 8,000 cavalry. That is 250,000 men. Modern scholars, looking at the logistics of ancient food supplies, suggest it might have been closer to 80,000 or 100,000. Standing on the tower, gripping the rough wood of the railing until your knuckles turn white, the academic debate feels incredibly irrelevant. Whether it's 80,000 or 250,000, it is more people than you have ever seen in one place in your entire life. It is enough to drown you. It is a biological tide, and you are standing in a sandcastle. By Jupiter, the sentry next to you whispers. He sounds like he's about to be sick. Where did they all come from? Everywhere, you say. And you're right, this isn't just one tribe. This is the Avengers Assemble moment of the Gallic Wars. You can see the standards of the Aedui, the Sequani, the Parisii, the Helvetii. Tribes that hate each other, tribes that have been fighting for centuries, have all put aside their feuds for one specific purpose, to kill you. And then comes the sound. It hits the wall a few seconds after the visual. It's a roar. It's a mix of shouting, chanting, the clashing of weapons against shields, and the thunder of hooves. But cutting through it all is a sound that makes your blood run cold. It's a high-pitched, screaming bray, like a pig being slaughtered, but amplified 10 times over. It's the carnix. The carnix is the Celtic war trumpet. It's a long, vertical bronze tube, taller than a man, with a bell shaped like the head of a boar or a dragon. The jaw of the beast is open, often with a wooden tongue that vibrates when blown. It is designed to be terrifying. It is designed to sound like a monster, and right now, hundreds of them are screaming at once. It's a dissonant psychological assault that scrapes against your eardrums. But the worst part isn't the noise in front of you, it's the noise behind you. You turn around and look inward, towards the hill of Alesia. The defenders on the plateau have seen the relief army too, and they are going absolutely insane. Vercingetorix's men are rushing to the walls. They are cheering, screaming, banging their swords on their shields. They are waving cloaks. It's the roar of a stadium when the home team scores a goal in the final minute. They see salvation. They see the pincers closing. You are standing in the middle. The donut of the Roman fortifications is suddenly very, very small. You are caught in a stereo surround sound of hatred. To your front, the roar of the arriving horde To your back, the roar of the starving desperate. "We are the meat," Titus says, joining you on the platform. He looks pale. "We are the meat in the sandwich." "Don't think about it like that," you say. "Think of us as the gristle, tough to chew." "I don't want to be gristle. I want to be in Italy." The relief army doesn't attack immediately. They are settling in. They are pitching camp on the Mussylafos heights, just a mile from your outer wall. You watch them spread out. They light fires. Smoke begins to rise, merging with the clouds. It looks like a city is being built in an afternoon. There is a quirky historical detail about the leadership of this massive force. It's led by a committee of 4 commanders, but the most famous one is Commius the Atrebaton. The irony is thick enough to cut with a gladius. Commius used to be Caesar's friend. Caesar made him a king. Caesar sent him to Britain as an envoy, and now here he is, leading the army to destroy his old patron. It's a personal betrayal played out on an epic scale. You wonder if Caesar is watching from his command tent, recognizing the banner of his old pal. That has to sting. The tension in the Roman camp is physical. It's a pressure change. The discipline tightens instantly. There is no more gambling, no more sleeping in. Every man is at his post. The centurions are pacing like caged tigers. Check your straps. Sharpen your points. If you drop your pilum, I'll kill you myself before the Gauls do. You spend the afternoon checking the stimuli, the spurs, in the outer field one last time. You crawl through the grass, making sure the iron hooks are hidden. You are tending the garden of death with frantic care. You know that tomorrow, or maybe tonight, someone is going to walk here. The first clash, when it comes, isn't the full assault. It's a test. The next day, the gates of the relief camp open, and their cavalry pours out. It's a massive force, maybe 8,000 horsemen, accompanied by light infantry, archers and slingers scattered among the horses. They fill the plain of Loams, a 3-mile-wide flat area between the hills. Caesar orders the Roman cavalry out to meet them. You are on the rampart, watching. It's like watching a gladiatorial game from the nosebleed seats. You are safe behind the wall, but you can see everything. The 2 masses of horsemen collide with a sound like a thunderclap. Dust rises instantly, obscuring the violence. It's a chaotic, swirling mess. The Gauls have the numbers. They are pushing the Roman cavalry back. You see your guys retreating, regrouping, charging again. The Gallic infantry mixed in with the horses is deadly. They are shooting arrows and throwing stones at the Roman riders, unhorsing them. "They're losing," the recruit whispers, gripping his spear. "Our cavalry is breaking. It looks bad. If the Roman cavalry routs, the Gauls will ride right up to the ditch and start filling it in." You grip your own shield, ready for the order to start throwing javelins. But then you see movement on the Roman flank. A group of riders is detaching from the main body. They look different. They are bigger. Their horses are uglier, shaggier. They aren't Roman. "The Germans," Titus says, pointing. "Here come the Germans." This is Caesar's ace in the hole. He has hired German mercenaries, Germani, from across the Rhine. These guys are the terrifying bogeymen of the ancient world. They are huge, wild, and incredibly violent. Caesar actually had to give them Roman horses because their own mounts were too small and pathetic. But the riders themselves are elite shock troops. You watch as the German squadron hits the Gallic flank. It's brutal. They don't just fight, they smash, they drive into the mass of Gauls like a wedge. The Gallic cavalry, surprised by the ferocity, begins to crumble. They panic. They turn. And once a cavalry force turns, the slaughter begins. The Germans chase them all the way back to their camp. You can hear the cheers from the Roman ramparts. It's a roar of relief. You find yourself cheering too, shouting for these barbarian mercenaries who are saving your skin. "Go on, get them," you yell, waving your gladius. The skirmish ends with the Gauls retreating behind their own lines. The immediate threat is pushed back. But the main army, the infantry, hasn't moved yet. They are still there, watching. They have seen the cavalry fail, and they are learning. They won't make the same mistake twice. The sun sets on a battlefield littered with bodies. The dust settles. The smell of blood and sweat drifts over the walls. That night, the camp is quieter than ever. The victory in the cavalry fight was good, but everyone knows it was just the appetizer. The main course is still sitting on the hill. You are on guard duty on the outer wall. The view has changed. Before, you looked out at darkness. Now you look out at a city of fire. The campfires of the relief army stretch for miles. It looks like the night sky has fallen onto the earth. There are thousands of fires, twinkling in the blackness. And behind you, the fires of Alesia are burning too. You are surrounded by light, but you are in the dark. It's beautiful, the recruit says, staring at the enemy camp, in a terrifying way. It's a lot of fires, you agree. Means a lot of stew, means they're eating well. Do you think they have wine? Commius definitely has wine, you say, probably drinking a toast to us right now. There is a mainstream historical fact that adds to the pressure. Caesar is personally commanding the defence. He is riding the lines constantly. His presence is the only thing keeping the panic at bay. He wears a distinctive red cloak, the paludamentum. In the chaos of battle, that cloak is the flag you rally to. You haven't seen him tonight, but you know he's out there, probably counting the fires, just like you are. You feel a vibration again. Not the ground this time, but the air. The Gauls are drumming, low rhythmic beating on Rhea's shields and hollow logs. Boom, boom, boom. It's a heartbeat that syncs with your own. You realise that the donut is now a pressure cooker. The heat is rising. The lid is clamped down tight. Hey, Titus whispers. Remember when we were digging the ditch and I complained about the mud? Yeah, I miss the mud. Mud was simple. This is complicated. You look at the sipi, the grave markers, sticking out of the ground in the flickering light of the enemy fires. They look fragile now, sticks against a flood. The mud is still there, Titus, you say, and tomorrow we're going to need it to slow them down. You lean back against the palisade. You don't sleep, you can't. You just listen to the drums and wait for the sun to come up on what might be the last day of the Roman Republic's presence in Gaul. The rumbling has stopped being a sound. It is now a state of being. The earth is holding its breath. The giant is awake. The wait ends not with a whimper, but with a scream that tears the night in half. You are dozing, or attempting to doze, leaning against the inner side of the outer rampart. It's midnight. The moon is obscured by heavy, low-hanging clouds, making the valley of Alesia a bowl of absolute darkness. You are drifting in that weird, jagged state between sleep and hypervigilance, dreaming of digging a hole that never ends. Then the world explodes. It starts from the outside. A massive, coordinated roar erupts from the camp of the relief army on the plain. It's followed instantly by the sound of thousands of Carnix trumpets blasting at once. It's a sound that bypasses your ears and goes straight to your adrenal glands. Up, up, to the wall, the centurion screams, kicking the man next to you awake. You scramble up the ladder to the fighting platform of the contravallation, the outer wall. You fumble for your shield in the dark. Your heart is hammering against your ribs like a trapped bird. You look out into the blackness. You can't see them yet, but you can hear them. The ground is shaking. A tide of humanity is rushing toward your ditch. Torches flare up in the distance, hundreds of them, bobbing erratically as the bearers run. Then the first wave of arrows hits the palisade. Thwack, thwack, thwack. It sounds like heavy rain, but solid. A javelin whistles past your ear and embeds itself in the timber next to your head, vibrating with kinetic energy. Hold, the centurion bellows. Wait for the range. But here is the nightmare scenario. The sound isn't just in front of you. From behind you, from the inner wall facing Alesia, an answering roar goes up. Vercingetorix has heard the signal. He sees the torches. He knows his cousins have arrived. The gates of the Oppidum fly open, and the desperate, starving garrison pours down the hill to attack your rear. You are now fighting a 360-degree battle. You are the meat in the most dangerous sandwich in history. The psychological pressure is instant and crushing. A soldier's instinct is to face the enemy, but where is the front? If you turn to fight the relief army, your back is to Vercingetorix. If you turn to fight the hill, your back is to the ocean of Gauls. You are fighting in a corridor that is barely a few hundred yards wide. It's claustrophobic. It's a panic attack with swords. Split the century, the officer orders. Front rank faces out, rear rank faces in. You are in the front rank. You are facing the relief army. You grip your pilum, you wait. The first thing the Gauls have to deal with is your garden. The stimuli, the lilies, the sipi. In the daylight, these are terrifying. In the dark, they are a horror show. You hear it before you see it. Screams. The sharp, wet snap of ankles breaking in the hidden pits. the agonizing cries of men impaled on the sharpened stakes. The rush of the charge falters as the front line hits the invisible wall of traps. "They're finding the lilies," Titus yells, standing next to you. There is a grim satisfaction in his voice. The garden is blooming, but the relief army is massive. They have numbers you can't comprehend. The sheer weight of the bodies pushes the front line forward. Men fall into the pits, and the men behind them run over their bodies. They are using their own dead as a bridge. It is a gruesome, biological engineering solution. They reach the ditch, the big 15-footer. They don't try to climb down it, they start filling it. They are throwing everything they have into the trench to create a causeway. Fascines, bundles of sticks, hurdles made of woven wicker, heavy stones, even their own shields. They are erasing your hard work, Khan, bundle at a time. "Pila!" the centurion roars. You step forward, wind up and throw. Your javelin arcs into the darkness. You don't aim at a man, you aim at the noise. You hear a thud and a scream. Good. You grab your second pylon. You throw that one too. Now you are down to your sword. The Gauls are bridging the ditch faster than you expected. They are throwing grappling hooks up at the rampart. Ladders are slapping against the turf wall. The top of the ladder appears right in front of you. A face appears. A warrior with lime-washed hair, screaming in a language you don't understand. You stab, short, sharp, efficient. The face disappears. But another one takes its place, and another. Meanwhile, behind you, the chaos is mirrored. Vercingetorix's men are storming the inner wall. They are throwing bundles of straw into the trenches to cross them. They are desperate. They are fighting for their lives, for their families, for their king. They are hitting the Roman lines with the fury of men who have nothing to lose. You can hear the centurions on the inner wall shouting the same orders. Repel, push them back. You feel a strange dissociation. It's too loud, too chaotic. Your brain can't process the danger, so it shuts down the fear and focuses on the mechanics. Shield up, stab, push, shield up. You are a machine. There is a mainstream historical fact that highlights the sheer intensity of this moment. The Gauls were using a weapon called the falcata, or heavy slashing swords, that could cleave through a Roman shield. You see a legionary near you take a hit that splits his scutum in half. He looks surprised for a split second before he goes down. The armour of the legions is good, but physics is physics. Suddenly a trumpet blows from the north. It's a specific signal. "Reserve!" the centurion shouts. "To the north sector, move!" You are pulled off the wall. You run. Running in full armour, in the dark, through a camp that is under attack from both sides, is an obstacle course from hell. You trip over tent ropes. You splash through mud. You dodge mule carts that have been overturned. You are heading towards Mont Rhea. This is the weak point. Mount Rhea is a hill to the north that was too large to be included inside the siege lines, so the Roman wall had to run along the slope below it. It's a tactical nightmare. The enemy has the high ground there, and Vercingetorix's cousin, a guy named Vercingetorix, try saying that 3 times fast while dodging arrows, has secretly marched 60,000 picked men behind that hill during the night. They attack at dawn. You arrive just as the sun is breaking. The scene is apocalyptic. The Roman lines here are buckling. The Gauls are pouring down the slope of Mont Rhea like a landslide. They are throwing spears down into the Roman camp. You are fighting uphill, which is rule number 1 of things you don't want to do in war. Caesar is there. You see him. It's not a myth. He's riding a horse, wearing that famous scarlet cloak, the paludamentum. It's bright red, visible even in the dust and smoke. He's not fighting with a sword. He's fighting with his presence. He's pointing, shouting, moving cohorts like chess pieces. Look at him, Titus pants, leaning on his knees for a second. He's actually enjoying this. He's a psychopath, you wheeze. Come on. You are thrown into the gap. The sheer density of the combat is suffocating. You are pressed shoulder to shoulder with men from the 10th, the 12th, the 8th. Shields are locked. It's a shoving match. The smell is overwhelming. Sweat, blood, bowels, bad breath. There is a quirky, almost cinematic detail about this specific part of the battle. The Gauls at Mont Rhea are using a tortoise formation of their own, locking their shields over their heads to protect themselves from Roman missiles as they advance. It's ironic they are copying your homework, but instead of throwing javelins, The Romans are rolling heavy rocks and logs down the rampart to crush them. It's medieval bowling. You watch a massive log tumble down the slope, smashing into the Gallic shield wall. Bodies fly, the line breaks. You charge into the gap, stab, bash, scream. But for every Gaul you kill, 2 more step over his body. They are endless. Vercingetorix has brought the elite warriors. These aren't the starving levies from the hill. These are fresh, well-fed, angry nobleman warriors. They are hitting you with heavy iron chainmail and long slashing swords. They're breaking through, someone screams. And they are. The outer wall at the foot of Montraya is being breached. The Gauls are tearing down the palisade with their bare hands and grappling hooks. If they break through here, the Roman army is cut in half. The donut will crumble. You feel the panic rising in the ranks. This is the breaking point. This is the moment where an army dissolves into a mob of fleeing individuals. You look at Titus. He looks terrified. His helmet is askew. He's lost his shield. "Hold the line," you scream at him, grabbing his shoulder. "If we run, we die." Then a miracle happens. Or rather, a tactical gamble. Caesar orders the German cavalry, those terrifying mercenaries again, to ride out of the camp, circle around the back of Montraya, and hit Vercingetorix from the rear. It takes time. You are holding on by your fingernails. You are exhausted. Your arm feels like lead. You can barely lift your sword. You are just leaning your weight against the enemy, trying to be a heavy object. Then you hear it. A different kind of scream from the Gallic rear. Panic. The Germans have arrived. You see the Gallic standards waver. The pressure on your shield eases slightly. The warriors in front of you stop pushing forward and start looking behind them. They realize they are now the ones in the sandwich. "Now," the centurion roars. Push them back." You summon the last reserves of your energy. You push. The line moves forward. 1 step, 2 steps. The Gauls are turning. They are routing, but the battle isn't over. On the inner wall, Vercingetorix is still hammering away. He doesn't know his relief force is collapsing. He's still trying to break out. You are ordered to run back to the inner wall. "Are you kidding me?" Titus sobs. "My legs don't work." "Move." You stumble back across the camp. It's a scene of carnage. The tents are shredded. There are arrows everywhere, sticking out of the ground like strange stubble. You reach the inner wall. The fight here is desperate. The Gauls have filled the ditch. They are clawing at the rampart. But then something changes. The Gauls on the walls stop fighting. They are looking out past the Roman lines. They can see the slaughter happening on the slopes of Montraya. They can see the relief army, their salvation, breaking apart and fleeing into the woods, pursued by the German horsemen. A wail goes up from the Gallic ranks. It's not a war cry, it's the sound of a heart breaking. Vercingetorix sees it too. He stands on the rampart, looking at the ruin of his plan. The relief army is gone. The hammer has shattered. He is alone on the anvil. The attack falters. The energy drains out of the Gallic assault like water from a cracked cup. They start to pull back. They retreat up the hill, dragging their dead. You collapse. You don't even check the ground. You just sit down in the mud. Your sword falls from your hand. You can't feel your fingers. You look around. The sun is setting. The skies are bruised purple again, matching your body. The space between the walls is littered with thousands of bodies, Roman and Gaul, entangled in death. The ditches are full. The lilies are full. The garden has been harvested. Historians still debate the casualty numbers. Some say 8,000 Gauls died in the relief army alone. Others say more. Looking at the field, you believe the higher number. Caesar rides past. His red cloak is dusty, stained with mud and maybe blood. He looks tired. He doesn't cheer. He just nods at the men. It's a professional nod. "Good job. You didn't die." "We held," Titus whispers. He's lying on his back, staring at the sky. "We actually held." "Yeah," you raspy. "We held." The pressure cooker has whistled. The steam has escaped. The explosion didn't happen. The night falls, but it's different this time. The drums have stopped. The Carnix is silent. The fires on the horizon are going out as the relief army scatters into the dark, fleeing back to their homes. You are left in the silence of the victor, but it doesn't feel like victory. It feels like survival. You are bruised, bleeding, and hollowed out. You look up at the hill of Alesia. It's dark again. The fires are dim. The hope is gone. Tomorrow there will be no fighting. You know it. They have nothing left. The relief army was their last card, and they played it. You close your eyes. The ground is cold, but it's solid. The wall held. You are still the wall. The sun rises on a valley that looks less like a battlefield and more like a junkyard of the gods. You wake up because the silence wakes you. For weeks, your sleep has been punctuated by the thud of picks, the scream of Karnak's trumpets, the groans of the dying, or the simple, terrified hammering of your own heart. But this morning, there is nothing. No drums, no shouting. Even the birds seem to be holding their breath, unsure if it's safe to sing yet. You sit up. Your body feels like a single, giant bruise. Your joints are stiff, cemented by dried mud and cold dampness. You look around. The camp is still standing, though it looks like it went through a hurricane. Tents are flattened, scorch marks blacken the grass, and the ground is littered with broken javelins that look like spilled toothpicks. But the relief army is gone. They vanished in the night, melting back into the forest of Gaul like a bad dream. The only proof they were ever here is the debris field they left behind, abandoned shields, broken carts, and the mounds of earth they threw into your ditches. You stand up and walk to the rampart. You look out at the inner circle toward Alesia. The fires on the plateau are out. The smoke has cleared. The walls, which used to be crowded with shouting warriors, are now lined with silent, motionless figures. They are just watching you. It's over. You know it, they know it. The physics of starvation has finally beaten the physics of war. They're coming out, Titus says, joining you. He's holding a piece of bread, but he's not eating it. He's just staring. To fight, you ask, though you know the answer. No, he says softly. To talk. You watch as a small group of figures descends from the gates. They aren't charging. They are walking with the heavy, deliberate steps of men who have lost everything. They carry no weapons, or at least no weapons drawn. They carry white flags or branches of olive wood, the universal symbols of "please don't kill us." Negotiations in the ancient world are often surprisingly bureaucratic. It's not just screaming and stabbing. There are protocols. Envoys go back and forth. Terms are discussed. The Romans are legalistic, even in victory. Caesar demands the surrender of the chiefs. He demands the weapons. He demands Vercingetorix. There is a mainstream historical fact that settles the weight of this moment. Alesia wasn't just a defeat. It was the end of Gallic independence. For centuries, these tribes had been the bogeymen of Rome. They had sacked the eternal city itself hundreds of years ago. They were the terrifying other. And today, on a muddy hill in the middle of nowhere, that story ends. The order comes down to assemble. You aren't forming up for battle this time. You are forming up for a show. Polish your gear, the centurion barks, but his heart isn't in it. Try to look like conquerors, not mudrats. You spit on your tunic and try to rub off a bloodstain. It just smears. You straighten your helmet. You form ranks. The legions line up on either side of a raised earthen dais, where Caesar's chair, the cella curulis, has been placed. It's a piece of theatre. The Romans love theatre. You wait. The sun climbs higher, burning off the mist. The air smells of wet iron and old wood smoke. Then the gates of Alesia open for the last time. The Gallic warriors march out. They are gaunt. Their eyes are hollow. Their clothes hang off their frames. Starvation has taken the fight out of them more effectively than your swords ever did. They walk down the hill and toss their weapons into a pile. Clang, clatter, thud. The pile grows. Swords, spears, shields, helmets. It becomes a mountain of scrap metal. These are the tools that tried to kill you yesterday. Now they are just trash. And then he appears, Vercingetorix. Historians and ancient writers, specifically Plutarch and Florus, offer different versions of this moment. Some say he rode out quietly and surrendered. Others, the more dramatic ones, say he put on his finest armour, mounted his best horse, and rode down the hill in a display of defiant magnificence. From where you are standing in the ranks, it looks like the dramatic version. He rides a white horse. His armour is polished silver and bronze, shining painfully bright against the drab background of the mud. He wears a cloak of rich purple or plaid wool. His hair is long, washed and braided. He doesn't look like a defeated man. He looks like a king going to a wedding. He rides through the silent corridor of Roman soldiers. You can hear the hoofbeats of his horse on the hard-packed earth. Clop, clop. It's a lonely sound. He ignores you. He ignores Titus. He stares straight ahead at Caesar, who is sitting on his chair, wrapped in his red cloak, face like a stone mask. Vercingetorix rides up to the dais. He stops. Scholars still debate what happened next. Did he strip off his armour piece by piece? Did he ride in a circle around Caesar to symbolically bind him? Did he kneel? You watch as he dismounts. He moves with a slow, heavy grace. He unbuckles his sword belt and lets it drop. Thump. He unclasps his cloak. Swish. He takes off his helmet. He stands there, unarmed in his tunic. He looks human now, smaller, just a man. He walks to the foot of the dais and kneels. He doesn't say anything. He doesn't beg. He just offers his hands. Caesar doesn't smile. He doesn't gloat. He just nods to the lictors. They step forward and bind the king's hands. The chains rattle. It's a harsh, metallic sound that seals the fate of a nation. That's it, the recruit whispers behind you. He just gave up? He saved his people, you whisper back, or what's left of them. There is a quirky, somewhat grim tidbit about the aftermath of this surrender. The Roman soldiers, that means you, were promised a lot of loot, but Alesia had been starving. There was no gold, no food, no wine. So, Caesar paid you in the only currency available: people. Every soldier in the legion was given one Gallic prisoner as a slave to sell. You look at the huddle of surrendered warriors. You own one of them now. It's a weird, uncomfortable feeling. Yesterday, you were trying to kill him. Today, he is your retirement fund. You'll sell him to the traders who are already setting up shop behind the lines. And with that money, you might buy a small farm in Italy. The economy of war is brutal and direct. As Vercingetorix is led away, destined for a dungeon in Rome called the Tullianum, where he will wait 6 long years before being strangled during Caesar's triumph, the tension finally leaves the valley. The balloon deflates. You break ranks. You sit down on the ground. You take off your helmet and set it in the grass. The air feels lighter. The gravity has returned to normal. We survived, Titus says. He sounds surprised. He touches his face, as if checking to make sure he's still corporeal. Yeah, you say. We did. I'm never digging a hole again, he says. If I ever see a shovel, I'm going to burn it. You're going to dig a latrine tonight, Titus, you remind him. Don't ruin the moment. The rest of the day is a blur of logistics. The dismantling of the camp begins. The beautiful, terrifying machine you built, the towers, the ramparts, the cipi, is taken apart. The wood is salvaged or burned. The ditches are left to fill with rain. In a few years, the grass will grow back. The farmers will return. The garden of death will become a literal garden again. But for now, you just watch the smoke rise. You walk back to the outer line one last time. You look at the field where the relief army attacked. It's quiet. The bodies are being cleared. The crows have arrived, circling in lazy loops. You think about the engineering, the sheer impossible scale of what you did. You built a city to kill a city. You moved mountains. You changed the course of history with a pickaxe. Hey, the recruit says, walking up to you. He looks older than he did yesterday. What happens now? Now, you ask? Now we walk home. To Rome? Eventually, but first winter quarters, then maybe a triumph, then just life. It feels anticlimactic. You expect credits to roll or music to swell, but reality just continues. You are hungry, your feet hurt, you need to pee. The epic nature of the event fades into the mundane needs of the body. You find a spot away from the noise of the camp. You sit on the edge of the circumvallation, the inner wall. You look down into the ditch you dug. It's drying out. You reach into your pouch and pull out a single tally bone, one of the dice you played with. You toss it into the ditch, a small offering to the gods of the earth. For the ghosts, you whisper. The sun sets, painting the sky in shades of bruised purple and gold. It's the same sun that rose over the starvation, the fighting, the panic. It doesn't care. It just sets. You wrap your cloak around yourself. The wool is scratchy, familiar, and warm. You close your eyes. You can still hear the phantom sounds of the siege, the digging, the shouting, the trumpets. But they are fading. They are becoming memories. You are no longer a builder of walls. You are just a man sitting on a hill in Gaul, alive when you statistically shouldn't be. And that, my friend, is the story of Alesia. Not a story of glorious charges or shining heroes, but a story of dirt, sweat, hunger, and the stubborn refusal to move. You won because you dug deeper. You won because you endured. The campfires flicker to life around you. The smell of lentils cooking, actual lentils, with maybe some looted pork, drifts through the air. It smells like victory. It smells like survival. Titus, you call out. Yeah? Pass the wine, the good stuff. We don't have the good stuff. Pass the bad stuff then. It tastes the same tonight. You take a drink. It burns, but it warms you. You lean back against the turf wall. The earth is hard, but it supports you. The siege is over. The trap is sprung. The war is won. Now let the noise of the legions fade away. Let the shouting of the centurions and the clash of iron dissolve into the soft grey mist of history. The walls of Alesia are crumbling back into the earth, reclaimed by the roots and the rain. The towers are falling silent, their wood turning to dust, blowing away on the gentle wind of the valley. Imagine the landscape healing itself, the grass growing over the scars of the ditches, the wildflowers blooming in the fields where the lilies once waited, the rivers Ouse and Oserain flowing quietly, washing away the memory of the mud. You can let go of the shovel now. You can put down the shield. The weight is lifted from your shoulders. There is no more digging to be done. No more watching the horizon. The long watch is over. You are safe here, drifting away from the cold hills of Gaul, floating back to your own warm, soft space. The only sound left is the rhythm of your own breathing, steady and slow like the tide, in and out, deep and calm. The history books are closed. The maps are rolled up. The figures of Caesar and Vercingetorix are just shadows in a dream, standing still in the quiet corridors of time. They cannot disturb you now. Let your mind wander away from the damp earth and the hard stone. Find a place of comfort, a place of rest. The fires are out. The night is peaceful. The story is done. So, settle into the silence. Let the darkness wrap around you like a heavy, warm cloak. There is nothing left to do but drift. End of script. Sweet dreams.